Starters and Mark Pryor, the fourth in a row, hoping to pitch very well for the Cubs today. Steve, he's won his last 3 ball games, and he looks to improve on his performance in Toronto. He really struggled to get that Toronto offense out.
I'm sure he observed the game last night, and he saw Kerry Wood get ahead early with the fastball, then wipe him out with the breaking ball. And these two guys are very similar. They learn from one another, and Mark Pryor, being the younger of the two, probably took a look at Kerry Wood and how he handled some of these tough Cincinnati hitters and said, well, I throw similar, I'll go at him the same way. So look for more of the same today.
And Steve, I'm sure would agree. Nothing wrong with Cincinnati, but we're ready to go home, and hopefully the Cubs can do it with a win today and cap off this very exciting 10-game road trip. Coming up, the Cubs' big arms and big bats try to take 3 out of 4 against the Reds in their beautiful new park, the Great American Ballpark. And starting lineups come your way in a moment.
Fox Sports Net's coverage of Chicago Cubs baseball is brought to you in part by Aflac. Ask about it at work. Chevy. Test drive a new Chevy car or truck today at your Chicagoland and Northwest Indiana Chevy dealer. Comcast. Proud to be Chicagoland's new cable company. Heineken. It's all about the beer. Heineken. Walgreens. The pharmacy of the Chicago Cubs. Geico Direct. A 15-minute phone call could save you 15% or more on car insurance. Jack Daniel's Tennessee Whiskey. Nobody makes whiskey like Jack Daniel's. Pennzoil. Protection for the way you drive. Pennzoil. We're driving protection. Your local area Lexus dealer, who invites you to test drive a Lexus today. Mike's Hard Lemonade. A hard Mike's is good to find. And by Southwest Airlines. More than 2,700 nonstop daily flights to 59 destinations all across the country.
Announcing the Ford authorized tent sale going on now at your local Ford store. For a limited time, get huge savings on Ford's best-selling vehicles. Choose 0% financing or $2,500 to $3,000 cash back on Focus and ZX2. Plus, current Ford owners get an extra $500 cash back on both. Only Ford can authorize savings like this. The Ford authorized tent sale happens only once a year, so hurry in for the Ford authorized tent sale. If you haven't looked at Ford lately, look again.
How do you get custom windows, vinyl siding, and a day of family fun?
800-588-2300.
Call Empire today. We deliver in a week and install in a day.
800-588-2300.
You'll save with our low prices, plus no payments for a year. And get 2 2-for-1 coupons to Six Flags Great America. Call now.
800-588-2300. Empire.
Today.
Oh, look, it's the guy who falls.
Fall now.
Oh, I don't really do that anymore. It's not like I got that insurance.
What insurance?
Aflac.
They pay you cash if you can't work when you get hurt. Not that I ever do. Aisle 5 under lingerie.
Price check.
Aflac. Ask about it at work.
Aflac.
How to hit a home run in 3 easy steps. First, get a good grip. Second, keep your eye on the ball. And third, keep your swing to 1/2000th of a second. Apply 10,000 pounds of force 17 centimeters from the end of the barrel upon impact. The ball will compress an inch and reaccelerate in the opposite direction approximately 400 feet. But hey, take your time. You've got a full 4/10 of a second to make adjustments. For more helpful tips, watch the Cubs battle the Sox, where instructors Sosa and Ordonez are scheduled to put on a clinic. Cubs Sox coming Friday on Fox Sports Net.
And under cloudy skies in Cincinnati, we're just about set for the 4th game of this series and the final game of the big road trip before the Cubs head home for a big weekend set with the Chicago White Sox. It's Mark Pryor and Paul Wilson opposing each other here at the Great American Ballpark, and a real rarity in these parts, Stoney. A businessman special that is sold out. Standing room only tickets available today in the home of the Reds.
It's back-to-back sellouts for the Cincinnati Reds. What makes it unusual today, it's the first time since 1960. They sold out a day game during the week, but that shows you the drawing power of the Chicago Cubs. And it also shows you, Chip, that the Chicago Cubs this year are not to be taken lightly. They've snuck up on a few teams, but anybody who's seen them at all realizes when you go up against this pitching staff, it's no day at the beach.
Cubs boast, quite frankly, On many teams, 5 #1 starters, and today it's 1E. Mark Pryor goes to the mound today against Cincinnati. The Cubs got some help from the Diamondbacks last night. They beat Billy Wagner in extra innings down at the juice box, so the Cubs lead a 1.5 over Houston. The Cardinals 2 back. The Reds now 4 games back, and Cincinnati will face this Cubs starting lineup as presented by the skipper Dusty Baker. Mark Runzalanek back in the leadoff spot. He will hit first. Alex Gonzalez at short hit second. Corey Patterson got the night off last night. He'll hit third today. Sammy Sosa in the cleanup spot. Alou hits 5th. Caro 6th. Ramon Martinez in at third base. Damian Miller hits 8th, and Mark Pryor will hit 9th.
There's a look at Paul Wilson. He does throw a sinker. When he came up, he was a power pitcher. Now he has to adjust to being a finesser. He has very good control. He's never beaten the Cubs. When the Cubs faced him in this ballpark early, they hit him very well early, and then they let him off the hook, and he came on and threw a pretty good ball game. Opponents hitting .305. That's not a particularly good number.
Wilson was the man that got the start for the Reds 5 days ago, and through 20 pitches or so, the game was postponed against the Phillies. Danny Graves was originally scheduled to pitch today, but he's had a blister problem, so he'll get an extra day's worth of rest and is scheduled to go for the Reds tomorrow when they take on the Diamondbacks at the Bank One ballpark.
Well, let's hope the Cubs can jump on Wilson early, because that sinker is not going to be quite as good in the first inning as it will be later on.
And the numbers bear that out. Wilson's earned run average in the first inning is over 11. It's barely over 3 after the first, and an inauspicious start. Grunzalanek pops out. 1 up, 1 down here in the top of the first.
You may remember Paul Wilson. He was a #1 pick of the New York Mets, and of the threesome of Pulsiver, Isringhausen, and Wilson, Paul Wilson was thought to be the best. They likened him to Tom Seaver. Unfortunately for him, he's had a lot of arm problems, had arm surgery. He's just coming back now and trying to adjust to what for him is a brand new style of pitching.
And a very tough place to try to get by on the corners, because if you miss, the ball ends up in Kentucky. Here's Alex Gonzalez hitting .255 on the year, and he drives that ball into the upper deck here at the Great American Ballpark. This is our 2nd time here, and I can't say enough good things about this place. I think it's a wonderful baseball facility.
It's beautiful, it's lively, and it's made for an offensive team.
And the Reds certainly are that. And the Cubs showed that last night. They get to 4 runs, the ball game's over. The Cubs are now 31-9 when they score just 4 runs a game. They're in first place despite being in the middle of the pack offensively in the National League. But the great pitching, the great bullpen has carried the flag to this point. Alex goes fishing. A high fastball retires him. And a quick look at the rest of the Cincinnati defensive lineup today.
See how they line up behind Paul Wilson. It's Dunn, Kearns, and Guillen left to right, with Boone, Larkin, Olmedo, Casey, and LaRue behind the plate again today. Paul Wilson on the hill. Jason LaRue a little bit better defensively than Kelly Stinnett. Also in the lineup because he's hit Mark Pryor pretty well.
Corey hitting .314. And he takes a strike over the inside corner. Our home plate umpire, Lance Barksdale, today. This crew's had a good series. Speaking of the arbiters, and Patterson lifts that ball into left. That should be an easy play for Dunn, and it is. Wilson has a scoreless first. That's not a particularly good sign. Here come the Reds against Mark Pryor.
The Hyundai Sonata, ranked most appealing entry midsize car. More standard features than a Toyota Camry LE, including a V6 engine. All for over $2,100 less. Add in America's best warranty, 10 years, 100,000 miles, and you win. Test drive the Hyundai Sonata, starting at just $15,839 at your Hyundai dealer. Hurry in and get a 2003 Sonata with $1,000 cash back or 0% APR through June 30th.
There's an easier way to get to the All-Star Game. Subway's Eat Fresh and Win $1 Million Scratch Card Game. You can win a trip to the Major League Baseball All-Star Game or the grand prize of $1 million. Stop by Subway today for our selection of fresh baked bread, fresh ingredients, delicious deli-style meats, and a free game card. Subway, eat fresh.
Hi, I'm Murray. I'm here to tell you why UFOs are really visiting Earth. It's us. They've heard Murray's has the biggest selection of quality brand name parts on the planet in stock. So when they say take me to your leader, they mean Murray's, the auto parts leader.
If you're looking for dependable name brands and expert customer service, a trip to Murray's will be out of this world.
So the next time you see a light in the sky, think of Murray's.
Super parts, super people, super prices. Murray's, the auto parts supermarket.
They love air fresheners. Of course they don't breathe air, but they still like it fresh.
Cubs are down in order in the top half of the first. And here comes the Cincinnati starting lineup as presented by their skipper, Bob. Mary Larkin, the sixth different leadoff man they've employed this year. Then it's Guillen, who homered yesterday. Sean Casey at first. Good-looking Austin Kearns playing center field for a banged-up Ken Griffey Jr. Aaron Boone's at third. Dunn's in left. LaRue behind the plate. Ray Olmeda at second. And Paul Wilson will hit ninth.
Mark Prior on the hill for this his 15th start. Before last night, he had the Cubs' only complete game. Now he has one of the Cubs' 2 complete games. Opponents hitting just .232 as he looked for win number 9 with an ERA of .271. A very good chance for young Mark Prior to be one of the Cub representatives at the All-Star Game. And I say one because there will be more than that. As you know, Dusty Baker is going to be the man in the dugout, and the Cubs should have a couple of players there also.
Figure Sammy Sosa will be in on voting. Corey Patterson might be the other man worthy of joining Prior. Certainly Joe Borowski deserves some consideration for his value to the team, if not necessarily the number of saves he's accrued so far in the first 2.5 months of the season. Those decisions still a couple of weeks away from being determined as Prior punches over a quick strike 2. Mark said something interesting after his game against Toronto. He said he may have given those hitters for the Blue Jays a little too much respect as he fired 5 2/3 innings of 0 earned run baseball at Skydome. Let's see how he approaches Cincinnati, a very powerful team in a very hitter-friendly park at the conclusion of this road trip.
I think it was real important for him to watch the ball game last night and watch how Kerry Wood went after these Cincinnati Reds. And at 0-2, he did exactly what Wood did last night. Don't use a setup pitch. Go right with a pitch you think you can wipe him out. Now I assume he'll go with the breaking ball, keep it low and away, and if Larkin tries to pull it, it'll be a ground ball to the left side.
2 strikes to Larkin, and he did throw the breaking ball, and it missed away. We want to welcome our affiliate Mediacom and their viewers in Dubuque, Iowa, to the ballpark in Cincinnati this afternoon. Wrap up of a 10-game trip. And the Cubs will gladly head back to Chicago, where they'll play 19 of their next 23 games in the Windy City. That leads up to the All-Star festivities at U.S. Cellular Field. There's the ground ball up the middle. Alex can't corral it, and Larkin has an infield hit. Third hit of the series for Larkin, and he's aboard in the Cincinnati first.
Larkin's at his best when he can go back up the middle or go to right center. This time he goes back up the middle. Alex gets a glove on it, but he can't corral it. And we saw Guillen last night hit a line drive home run to right field. This young man is awfully strong.
He's already issued the play me or trade me ultimatum, and you can understand his point. The man's hit 12 home runs and 166 at bats for the Reds this year. And with his hot production, they've been given the luxury of giving Ken Griffey Jr. a couple of days of rest. Griffey has some inflammation in his hip. He slammed into the wall trying to take back an Eric Karros home run ball earlier in this series, and the Reds don't want to take any chances again with Griffey, who's been plagued by injuries since he signed the Reds contract.
He gave them what he said was a hometown discount. What they didn't realize at the time was he'd be making the same per game. He would just be playing far fewer games. He's only hitting .272 this year. And since putting on the Reds uniform, it's been real hard to keep him on the field. And it hasn't been for lack of hustle. He's hurt himself trying to make great plays.
He did that against Paul Bacco, you recall, in our first trip here. Bacco hit a shot right in front of the Reds bullpen. Griffey with the full layout in Sukahara dislocated his shoulder and was lost for a month.
Well, I think the layout was fine. It was the Sukahara that really hurt him.
Yeah.
By the way, Sandy Crum just made a wonderful catch in the dugout. We have to note that because he has some of the worst hands in the major leagues.
1 ball, 2 strikes. I think he cuts his own hair. That's an indication. Pryor paints the inside corner. 1 on, 1 out. Guillen left shaking his head, and the Cubs continue to rack up strikeouts against a Cincinnati offense that's 1 away from 600 punchouts already this year.
Mark Pryor can certainly control east and west. A lot of young pitchers can do that. But controlling north and south or up and down is a little bit more difficult. He's able to do that, and he goes up by design when he wants the strikeout.
Here's Sean Casey. He's 3 for 12 in this series. I talked with Sean at length yesterday about this Cubs staff, and he said, you know, last season, maybe the year before that, we used to think, all right, we're going to Wrigley, or the Cubs are coming to town. Nobody in Major League Baseball is thinking that right now.
Certainly no hitters. Not when you take a look at this young pitching staff and realize that game after game, especially if you're right-handed, you're going to have some big problems.
7 home runs for Sean Casey and a .287 batting average. Last year a lost season for Casey, who was battling injury. He's come back and has had flashes of power, but he plays a power position, plays in a ballpark where you figure he would be able to hit more home runs. It has not worked out that way for him yet.
Well, this is the pitch where he should get a good swing. Mark has fallen behind 2-0, and you figure Casey, who hits the ball better out away, will be looking for a fastball out there.
3 balls, no strikes, with Austin Kearns waiting on deck. He's taking all the way. 3 balls and a strike. Pryor's only walked 25 men in almost 100 innings this year.
Well, this is where you have to be ready for the ball to come right back at you, because you're going to throw a fastball. Most likely it's going to be away, and Casey likes to go back up the middle.
He does not run well, however. If you get it hit to an infielder, you ought to be able to end this first inning. Count now full 3-2. Casey, part of this Red attack that strikes out a lot. Does Bob Boone gamble? He ran unconventionally in the Jimmy Anderson start.
Well, Casey's not one of the guys that strikes out too much, although you'd never know that. A couple of nights ago he fanned 3 straight times, but overall just 33 strikeouts in 268 at bats.
And the situation of which we're speaking, Reds had LaRue and Jimmy Anderson up with 1 out and Adam Dunn at the plate. Boone put them both in motion. Dunn struck out, and LaRue was out at the plate. Runner is going, Larkin, and the pitch skied into left, and Casey is retired. 4 out number 2. Back to first goes Larkin. Here's Kearns with a runner at first.
A pretty good comeback by Mark Pryor. We'll show you the defense and how they line up behind the young right-hander. It's a Lou Patterson and Sosa left to right with Martinez, Gonzalez, Grzelcyk, and Karros in the infield. Damian Miller behind the plate, and Mark Pryor on the hill.
Kearns with 15 home runs, 57 driven in. Right now, the best hitter on the Cincinnati team.
He's a good one.
Driven out of play to the right side. Lights are on here in Cincinnati. Skies very leaden this afternoon. The Reds already had 1 game washed out on this homestand, and it must have been a gully washer because the Phillies were in on getaway day. It was their 1 and only trip to Cincinnati, and they have yet to announce the makeup date for that ball game, and it might have implications for both the Reds and Phillies before the season is done. Check swing. There's a break for Mark. He's ahead of Kearns 0-2.
Kearns only 1 for 6 in the series, and one of the reasons why he's had a problem is 3 real good right-handers right in a row, and also they've discovered something. He very rarely will check his swing on a good slider low and away out of the zone, and the Cubs have been ahead of him most of the series. So though he's a good hitter, he's still a young hitter, and he's trying to get command of that strike zone.
No balls, 2 strikes, and Mark will not win the appeal. 1-2 your count. With an infield hit leads at first. He's only attempted 1 stolen base this season. With Kearns up and the hitter-friendly nature of this park. Get down, he's going to be moving down in the count. 1 ball, 2 strikes. But let's see what Boone does. You never know with the feisty skipper of Cincinnati. That's off the plate. 2 balls, 2 strikes.
Well, twice tantalizing breaking balls low and away, and Kearns was able to hold his swing. Kearns a product of the Reds system, former #1 draft choice. There's 6 homegrown Reds in the lineup today.
2-2. Breaking ball froze him. He wasn't looking for that. Pryor has his 2nd strikeout, and the Reds are done in their half of the first.
Free to move about the country.
And now with a late-breaking story, here's Suzanne.
Thanks, Tom. As the volcano continues to erupt, we take you live to correspondent John Ryland, who's at the scene. John, what's the situation?
Suzanne, as you can see behind me, the lava is covering an area of about 2 square miles. It's a bad situation, but I do have good news.
What's that, John?
I just saved a bunch of money on my car insurance by switching to Geico.
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance.
You want the best values in America? Well, they're here now at the Dodge Summer Sales Drive,
where you'll find our best products.
Like the Hemi-powered Ram Heavy Duty Motor Trend's 2003 Truck of the Year.
And Caravan, the best-selling minivan, now with our best deals up to $4,500 cash allowance or 0% financing for up to 60 months.
All with Dodge's 7-year, 70,000-mile powertrain limited warranty.
Let us prove we got the best values in America. Hurry to your Dodge dealer today.
Cubs fans, come early and save big with the Cubs Early Bird Discount. During the first hour, the gates are open. Enjoy 25% off all food and non-alcoholic beverages. For hot dogs, pizza, Pepsi, and more, catch the Cubs Early Bird Discount.
White Sox are in town this weekend, then the Milwaukee Brewers, and weekend tickets for the Cubs are going to be a little tougher to come by, so there are plenty of great seats for that Milwaukee series as well as the July series against the Florida Marlins. An exciting young team. Dontrell Willis, the former Cub farmhand, has turned into their big pitching star, so come on by the ballpark. Check out the Cubs on the upcoming opportunities in Chicago. Again, the Cubs will play 19 of their next 23 games in the city of Chicago, starting tomorrow against the White Sox. A mixture of boos greets Sammy Sosa as he strides to the plate here in the second. I invite you to shop at Cubs.com, Steve, the official site of wearing your heart on your sleeve cap, pullover, and a whole lot more.
This should be a good matchup for Sammy. Wilson not near overpowering.
Sammy with 4 hits against him lifetime, and 3 of them have left the ballpark.
One of the reasons why I think it's a good matchup, because if Sammy knows you can't throw it by him inside, then he can look away and drive the ball that way.
He hit a ball here last night that left with a vapor trail behind it. That one screaming into the upper deck. 464 feet by Sosa in the 5th inning last night. It hit so hard it dented the camera position in straightaway center field.
Talking with the Hall of Famer Marty Brennaman, he said that he hasn't seen anything hit that far in this ballpark. Sammy almost left the ballpark in straightaway center.
Sharply hit into the shift. Larkin picks it cleanly and makes the play to first. 4 up, 4 down for Wilson.
To say hello to Floyd Schwartz, 90 years old and a tremendous Cub fan. He watches all the games and he's looking on today.
Here's Moises Alou. He is hitting .302 on the season. He's 4 for 11 in the series with a home run. That one driven down the right field line. Long run. Can anybody catch up? It does not matter as Casey goes sliding into the padded area of the wall.
That one just appeared to be a slow motion replay. Sean Casey was actually running full speed, and when he decided that he couldn't get to it, he took that long slide. Watch it again. That's real slow motion. Get down, Sean. There you go. He comes away unscathed.
Swing and a fly ball hit to left. Done though. Makes the chest high catch. 2 away in our second inning of play.
It's really nice to talk with Sean Casey before the game. He has so much enthusiasm for this game. This is a guy that realizes how lucky he is to be able to play it. He came up with the Cleveland Indians, was traded over here to Cincinnati. The Indians have given up a whole lot of talent, namely Richie Sexson and Brian Giles and Manny Ramirez. They've given up some guys who can mash.
And now they are in complete rebuilding mode in Cleveland. They're 13 games under 500 at the moment.
Got some pretty good young pitchers, but they've got to rebuild their hitting prowess.
And they were, like the Bulls, I think, have to go through. The fans in Cleveland are going to have to accept that it was as good as it's going to get in the 90s with Tomey and Ramirez and Bell and Lofton and all those great pitchers they had too.
Now they've got to wait a while. Ellis Burks is hurt again. He's had some tremendous physical problems. He was a guy they thought would lead the way with all of their younger hitters. Brandon Phillips, acquired in a trade from Montreal, didn't work out the way they thought, but he's still a youngster. And they still have the magician at shortstop, Omar Vizquel, who's one of the best in the world at that position.
One ball, 2 strikes to Cub first baseman Eric Karros. And he's done a wonderful job filling in for Hee-Sop Choi, who has joined the team here in Cincinnati. He's resumed his light workouts, and the Cubs think he might be ready to go out on a rehab assignment as early as Saturday.
The Cubs could certainly use him back.
Karros is down swinging. Wilson 2 perfect innings, and we remain scoreless at the Great American Ballpark.
Monsanto. All Chicagoans admire him for his brilliant career at third base and as today's broadcast voice of the Cubs. No wonder he always draws a crowd.
Can I have your autograph?
What other reason could there be?
They like my Chevy.
Get 0% APR on every 2003 Chevy Trailblazer, Tahoe, and Suburban, or get big cash back. $3,500 total cash back on Trailblazer.
Mr. Santo, can I drive your Chevy?
No.
See your Chicagoland and Northwest Indiana Chevy dealers today.
Let's get this guy. It's got to be over 100 degrees out there. You have any idea what that does to an engine?
Need a motor oil for hot temperatures? We developed one. Pennzoil Synthetic resists thinning to protect engines in hot summer conditions. Pennzoil, we're driving protection.
Get a $7 rebate on a signature service oil change with Pennzoil Synthetic or high mileage vehicle motor oils.
Totally NASCAR. Your season-long destination for everything that is NASCAR. Weeknights on Fox Sports Net.
The Crosstown Classic resumes tomorrow at 2:20 at Wrigley Field. It's the Cubs and the White Sox. Sean Estes and John Garland will meet in the opening game of the series. We'll have it for you here on Fox Sports Net Chicago. Saturday, a network game, Clement and Mark Burley. Then Sunday, Carlos Zambrano and Bartolo Colon. And an off day Monday, and we'll welcome the Brewers to town Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday again. Good tickets available for that Milwaukee series. The Cubs will play the Brew Crew at 7:05 Tuesday, 1 o'clock Wednesday, 1 o'clock on Thursday.
You'll get to see some guys who can swing the bat. The Brewers have had some problems in the pitching department, but Richie Sexson is something to watch. There you see the schedule of the upcoming games.
Aaron Boone, the batter, in the second. And Pryor misses upstairs and away to Boone, who's hitting .280 on the year. 232 consecutive games for the slugging Cincinnati infielder. Playing third base again today. He's played second, he's played short, and he's handled the hot corner beautifully in this series, as he always does.
Now, if you're going to throw him a fastball, he's a very good fastball hitter. It's best to keep it away from him.
That's what he did, and Boone fouls it away. Full count, 3 balls, 2 strikes.
Last night, and similar counts, Gary Wood threw sliders, and Aaron Boone couldn't pick up the spin and swung at some pitches a foot out of the zone. Might not be a bad idea to go back there again.
Pryor with a couple of strikeouts in the game. And Boone stays alive.
Aaron Boone played second base, tried to make the conversion for the good of the team. Brandon Larson was playing third when we opened the season. Larson had his opportunity, but defensively he was less than adequate. He wasn't swinging the bat very well. They sent him down. They shifted Boone back over to third. The last time that Wilson went out to pitch, Boone actually started at shortstop, but that game was rained out, so he gives you a little flexibility. And talking with the infield coach Tim Foley, who was also the third base coach, he said that Boone can play second and play short, but his position is third base. That's where he's most comfortable.
Again, the 3-2 pitch from Mark Pryor, and Boone hits a line drive over second. Over quickly to cut it off is Sosa. Boone, a nice piece of hitting, has the second Cincinnati leadoff hit in this game.
He's a real good high fastball hitter. When you fall behind or when he can guess high fastball, it's tough to get the ball by him. But you keep it in the ballpark by keeping it away. And you see Pryor got under that one and got that fastball up, and Boone hit it hard.
That'll bring up the all-or-nothing man, Adam Dunn. 22 home runs this year, but only 18 singles. And he has really had trouble with the invisible baseball. He's 1 for 9 in this series and has struck out 6 times.
You have a couple of different spots where he's not going to catch up. That slider low and in mystifies him, and he's had some trouble with plate coverage away.
Big hole on the right side if he can pull something, and Mark wisely keeps it away from him. 1 ball, 1 strike.
Dusty Baker even commented on the last fly ball he hit in the 9th inning. It seemed to be 300 feet high. Finally coming down and staying in the park.
He laid off that pitch. Unlike Kerry last night, Mark today is behind an awful lot.
Well, last time against Toronto, he was in the mid-80s in the 4th inning. He wants to avoid that today, although today there is a rested pen.
Perfect pitch. That's the one that Dunn has said has given him the most trouble. Pitchers are going out there, and pitches he thinks are on the black are getting called for strikes.
I don't think he's ever going to hit for average until he learns the outside corner and what he can do with that pitch.
So again, Bob Boone with a decision. You've got a man up there that strikes out a lot. You've got his son Aaron Boone at first base, who does have 11 stolen bases,
I think
against a staff that doesn't give up many.
You're running into a strike him out, throw him out if you do run him.
Aaron leads from first. Dunn will wait again. Reds have the game's only hits. A leadoff single by Larkin in the first. Boone singled shortly ago. 3-2 pitch, not going. Ground ball toward first, but foul. We'll do it again.
The Reds knew this was going to be a huge series. The one thing they wanted to avoid was either losing 3 of 4 or getting swept. In order to split the series, they've got to win today. They would move within 3 games, which is exactly where they started. They would think that that would be okay.
Runner holds. The pitch is low. Mark didn't get the call. So 2 are on, none are out. Here's LaRue. He's the man you said you were very concerned of in this head-to-head matchup.
He was the one guy in the lineup that consistently has had good swings against Mark Pryor. Bob Boone has always been one of those guys that doesn't mind bunting, but you would be bunting into the bottom part of the order. Never a real good thing to do. So let's see what Mr. Boone has in mind. Martinez at least thinking about bunt at third base.
26 RBIs for LaRue on the year. He has 1 hit in the series to this point. 2 on, nobody out, and Pryor gets ahead of the catcher. Strike 1 the call. Reds, when we last saw them in Chicago, were a real mess. The Cubs just obliterated their pitching staff in Chicago. They went down to San Juan, Puerto Rico, made 7 roster moves, and frankly have turned their season around. 5 games over 500 since leaving Chicago. And as Steve mentioned, despite being 1 under, are only 4 games back. Ground ball at the third base bag. 1 there, and the toss across in time. How about that double play? Runner at second, 2 outs. Had it been hit a little more sharply, you might add a shot at 3.
Now with the slow running LaRue, you don't figure to get out of a double play if he hits it on the ground. He had only grounded into 2 double plays all year, but this is tailor-made, and they throw him out easily. So I don't think I would give Olmedo anything too good to hit. He is a much better hitter from the left side, and he also has an extra step. And being a very speedy runner, you got a pitcher in the on-deck circle.
Pryor paints the corner. Now he'd love to see the young hitter get himself out here. For Mark, you know, would love to start the 3rd inning off with Paul Wilson.
Well, another factor though, Paul Wilson's hitting .043, right. So it's not like you're facing a Mark Pryor, Kerry Wood type hitter.
So again, if Olmedo expands the strike zone, you'll gladly take it. If you lose him, you have first base open, and you take your chances with Wilson here with 2 outs.
He's a real young hitter, and you figure now that you're ahead 0-2, you can certainly wipe him out of the strike zone. So you don't have to throw him a strike here, and you'll probably get out of the inning.
No balls, 2 strikes. Runner at second, Adam Dunn. Scoreless game.
Much rather see Olmedo in the lineup than Castro, who's had a pretty good run at it in the 8-hole.
Olmedo making the jump from Double-A baseball, and he hits a line drive to right. Long run, Sammy. Can he get there? He can. The ball hangs up, and Pryor escapes the second. No runs, 1 hit, 1 left. No score.
If you're looking for the biggest savings event of the year,
Toyota's got it.
If you're looking for the largest selection of the year,
Toyota's got it.
You'll find it all right now at Toyota's tent event.
Toyota's got it.
Check out Toyota's complete lineup of 5 SUVs. Get 0% financing on Highlander, the 4Runner SR5, and RAV4. Or choose 800 customer cash on Highlander. If you want it, this tent event's got it. Now at your Toyota dealer.
Toyota's got it.
Copyrighted telecast is presented by authority of the Chicago Cubs and may not be reproduced or retransmitted in any form without the express written consent of the Chicago Cubs.
Identity crisis? Get smart. Get supplied. Military and Police Supply now has dog tags. Getting yours is easy. Give us the info. We engrave it. You wear it. In minutes, crisis solved. And don't forget our selection of knives, boots, and patches. Check out our stockpile of MREs and other survival essentials. Located at 7351 West Madison and Forest Park, minutes from the Eisenhower, from the city or suburbs. Dial 312 surplus for weekly specials and closeouts. Keeping you strong for over 25 great years. Military and Police Supply. Thanks for the business.
Hey,
I just got a new car.
Oh, yeah? Where'd you get it?
Jacob's Twin.
Hey, me too. Man, they have a huge selection. Over 2,000 new cars.
I know. You want a Buick? They got it. You want a Pontiac? They got that too.
Oh, yeah. Ford, Honda, Mazda, Hyundai, they got all those. Yeah, I went there for a used car, and guess what? They have over 300.
And they have some of the lowest prices in town.
Hey.
You always win at Jacob's Twin.
Hey, I also drive a car from Jacob's Twin, but I'm Jeff Jacobs.
Tomorrow's Power Bar Day at Wrigley Field. Exciting products, Steve, will be given away throughout the game. You can win with a lucky ticket number drawing, or you can stop by the Chicago Cubs offices at Wrigley Field for a free entry form. It's Power Bar Day as the Cubs will try to outpower the White Sox at 2:20. Get more information online at Cubs.com. Power bars are very good, by the way.
They're very good. Give you a lot of energy.
Yes, sir.
And the Cubs could use a little of that with a very quick turnaround from a night game last night, although the game was played in 2 hours and 13 minutes. That certainly helps. At the end of a long road trip, and when you put a Canadian city in the middle of this one, it became a very long trip. The Cubs will be very happy to get home.
Line drive to third. Martinez is retired in this game for the Cubs offense. Starting the way last night's game began for the Reds hitters. 7 up, 7 down.
That ball hit very hard, but Aaron Boone right there to make the play. Third base is a reaction position. You don't have to have good speed. You have to have a very quick first step. And Boone has that to go with a very strong arm.
That's in for a strike to the Cub catcher, Damian Miller, whose bat has been resurgent on the road trip, swinging much more effectively.
Aaron reminds me a whole lot of the Cubs' crafty third baseman, Ron Santo, of years past. And I'm going to do an interview with Ron Santo to be on the pregame tomorrow. We're going to talk about that Cubs-Sox matchup. I'll, of course, take the Cubs side. Ronnie will represent the White Sox in that one.
Team he loves most. Ground ball foul past third.
We're trying to get him to lay off that black hat that he wears.
Oh, he'll break it out. You know, the man's loyalties can only be kept under wraps so long.
And there's a look at Ronnie trying to explain, as Pat shows you, that it is raining right now. I think that's a universal sign for rain, or there's a spider in the booth, one or the other.
Or Wilson's throwing a palm ball. I'm not quite sure.
I think it is raining, and I think some of the fans are starting to duck for cover.
You know, Ronnie gets a little upset when we come to Cincinnati, because the last time we were here, the air traffic folks made Ronnie take off his shoes because he's a very suspicious looking fellow.
And they wanted him to turn around, of course, which he said was impossible to do because of the artificial legs.
Line drive back to the mound. Wow, that was a rocket. And Wilson got lucky as the rain starts to pick up its pace.
Damian Miller hit that ball awfully hard, and it certainly helps that it was to the glove side. This one is to the other side. Wilson's going to have some problems with it. On the glove side, you should be able to make that play.
So here's Pryor. Wilson's got to be thinking, can I pitch on a day when the weather's going to be dry? A strike to the Cub pitcher.
Well, he's facing a pretty good hitter, and so far he's just eased his way through the Cub lineup. This is normally when a pitcher breaks it up, but with a rainy day and all.
Slow roller. Boone's going to charge. Wet baseball. Good pickup. Good stretch. Goodbye Cubs. 9 up, 9 down in our third inning. Still scoreless at the great American Ballpark.
Free to move about the country. Introducing Rain X Car Wax. The same transparent polymer technology that makes our windshield treatment so effective now keeps your whole car protected from rain, dirt, UV rays, and more. There's almost nothing Rain X Wax won't protect your car from. Almost. New Rain X Car Wax. Protection you can see.
There's a place where driver's education is everyone's favorite subject. The Saab Aero Academy. 2 days of high-performance driving instruction with every new turbocharged Saab 95 Aero. This is the state of independence. And here, tuition is included. Welcome.
The biggest stars are on the best damn sports show, period. Please welcome Samuel Arnold Schwarzenegger. I'm in Electron. I'm excited. Tonight on Fox Sports Net.
We were talking about that's what's going to be so good about this group, that everyone's going to push the other person, the one guy behind him, the guy before him. And you know, we were talking last night, like, you know, somebody goes out and spins a 4-hit shutout, and you know, the next day you go out there, okay, I can do that, or I can match that, and it's a competitiveness, a good competitiveness against a group of guys that are working for the same goal.
Pretty good idea, and also it helps to observe how Kerry Wood faces the opposition, especially when you're facing the same club, because Wood and Pryor are very similar. They both throw very hard. They both have exceptionally good breaking pitches. You can't pick up the spin on either guy. And so if you take a look at how hitters go after Kerry Wood, Mark Pryor knows that he has a leg up on the opposition. Chip, we had the same situation in Baltimore, where Dennis Martinez was young at that point. Jim Palmer had won 3 Cy Youngs. We had the left-handers Flanagan and McGregor. Flanagan won the Cy in 1979, and McGregor won 20 games. And every time you'd go to the mound, the guy before you normally pitched a great game. You certainly wanted to do as well and try to outdo him if you could. It's really a great situation to be in, and I think the Cubs have a similar situation up and down their rotation.
So Pryor to work here in the 3rd inning. Paul Wilson greets him first. Wilson has 1 hit and 23 at bats this season. Pryor will try to retire him. It's going to be a misty, soggy afternoon. We're hoping to get this one in its entirety today. The Cubs do come back here in September, but they already have a couple of doubleheaders on the slate. One with the Cardinals in Chicago, one with the Pirates in Pittsburgh at the beginning of our last road trip in September.
But there's another factor. You don't want to lose Mark Pryor to a rain delay. When you've got your arguably 1 or 1A pitcher going, that's the matchup you're supposed to win. And if it does come down any harder than this, and they do have to hold it up for any length of time, then with the age of Mark Pryor, you'd probably go to somebody else.
The good news, though, for the Cubs is the bullpen is well rested, as Pryor has his 3rd strikeout of this ball game, and you can just tell how much rain they've had in the greater Cincinnati area just by looking from our broadcast vantage point down the right field line. The Ohio River is really moving quickly, and the steamers and tugboats are having trouble going against the water upstream.
Well, it's been a very soggy spring.
I think Pryor wants the grounds crew to come out and do a little work on the mound here.
Well, that's your prerogative. You can have that. If you think that the footing isn't what you'd like it to be, you can come out and have them put a little of that diamond dry on it. All it does is make sure that you don't slip. It's a real good thing to do, because especially with the front foot, you're not going to slip because you have the pitching rubber to deal with, and you usually dig yourself out a little hole there, but it's your landing foot. If that slips at all, number one, you can risk some injury by extending that arm in an unnatural fashion, but number two, you just lose that pinpoint control, something normally Mark Pryor has a whole lot of.
So the grounds crew tries to scoot away after a cursory application of the dirt, and then the second base umpire Joe West signals to one of the kids, hey, hang on a minute, not so fast, you're not getting off that easily. Now The manicure is to Mark's satisfaction, and we'll go back to the top of the Reds order here with Larkin and Guillen due next.
Well, Larkin didn't bunt and hasn't bunted in the series. That doesn't mean he's not going to bunt, and it becomes difficult to make the play on wet grass. Barry always has that one in his arsenal.
Belt high strike over the outside corner. 0-1.
How long does he figure to play? Here's a middle infielder in his late 30s. You don't see many of those guys around.
Well, if somebody wants to give him $9 million a year, I'm sure he'd find it in his heart to put on the uniform.
I think he's probably seen the last of those long-term, really high contracts.
Well, you'll remember a couple of years ago, that was the big controversy here in Cincinnati. How could they let a lifelong Red walk out the door or consider trading him to, say, the New York Mets at the time? They gave him a very rich 3-year $27 million contract or thereabouts, and
this is the final year of it.
There are some in Cincinnati who say, well, if we hadn't signed Barry to that contract, they could have gone out and gotten a couple of more pitchers. Well, it seems you can't really have it both ways. Yes, Larkin is a tremendous player. He's had a great career with the Cincinnati Reds, but it is a fair question to ask. In hindsight, did the Reds overpay to keep a homegrown hometown hero in their uniform in anticipation of opening this park this year, and for Reds fans, the hope of being in the National League Central race?
Well, the answer to that is yes on just about every angle.
Terrible throw, wet baseball.
We talked about the difficulty in throwing the wet baseball. That's a routine play for Martinez, and unfortunately, Larkin's going to wind up at second base. Now you get this ball after it's taken at least one hop on the grass, and that ball just squirted out of the hands of Ramon Martinez, who's normally a very dependable thrower. Not so this time. He's got plenty of time, but the 5th error of the year is particularly costly.
So Guillen comes up. He took a called third strike in the first inning for the Reds. First run looms very large in this game with potential for bad weather awaiting us. And that one lashed out of play. Strike one.
I would strongly urge Mark Pryor to take a couple of looks at Barry Larkin. Although he doesn't run very much anymore, he still is one of the best base runners in the league. And if he realizes that Pryor's only going to take one look at him, he's going to time the move and probably steal third, something you don't want to have happen with only one out.
Pretty big lead by Barry, who's had leg problems all year, and that's in for strike two call.
That time Pryor did a better job. He looked back, he held it, he disrupted the timing. And where he got Guillen out with an inside fastball in the first inning, this is a good time to get him out with a breaking ball away.
You saw where Miller set up. That ball just spun.
That was the breaking ball that hung. Fortunately, it hung too far inside, and Guillen got over the top of it.
As a pitcher, how soon do you know you're in trouble when you hang a pitch? Almost, do you literally feel it come off the fingertips?
It slips out of your hand. That's exactly what happened. And fortunately, you hope that you hang it well out of the zone so Kai can't get a piece of it.
Driven into right field. That ball's going to bounce on a hop to Sosa. Larkin puts on the brakes. Sammy came up charging. Good throw. Good play by Sosa. Again, the wet baseball. That time Sammy had no trouble. First and third, though, with one out.
Credit Tim Foley when he realized it was going to be a one-hopper, and he knew where Sammy was playing and realized he really didn't have to go too far to his left. He held Griffey. He knows he's got Casey and Kearns coming up. It turned out to be a pretty good throw. Now, normally, if Guillen had thought about it, he'd look at that throw, realize there was no cutoff man, and by the angle of the throw, he might have taken off and gone to second.
Well, this is a spot where if Mark has a ground ball in the quiver, he'd love to fire it at Casey here. Sean doesn't run well. You get him to hit it at somebody, you get out of the inning potentially with the second double play and as many turns at bat.
One of his weaknesses is a slider inside, but with a big hole on the right side, that's a ball he can pull through that hole.
And as we saw in game 2 of the series, you throw him down and away, he can lash it into the left center field alley here. So when Casey's right, he's a very dangerous hitter. Fly to left his first time up. Larkin at third, Guillen at first.
number about Casey you like is from the 7th inning or later, he's hitting over 320. Shows you a pretty good clutch hitter.
As you said, this guy, one of the real delights for us media types to work with, talk to, and watch play. But there are some in this town who say, look, as much as we like Sean Casey, could they trade him, and could they get a #1 starter in return for him these days?
Well, the answer is yes, they could trade him. No, they could not get a #1 starter because he's playing a power position and doesn't have a whole lot of power.
Missed the inside corner. 2 balls and a strike to Casey.
He's also at the salary level where you figure without a whole lot of speed, they want one of 2 types of players, either a guy who's going to combine a 300 average with base stealing prowess, or in the power position they want a guy to be a big run producer who hits the ball out of the park. As good as Casey is, he's neither of those.
He had 25 home runs in '99, and there's a bad break. Ground ball past second base and into right field. A run is in. They're at the corners with 1 out. Base hit for Casey. His 33rd ribby, and the E5 comes back to roost. It's 1-0 Cincinnati.
That ball was hit pretty hard, and it went right off the leg of Mark Pryor. Take another look at it. It's a 1-hopper. And tough to defend yourself on that one. The follow-through pulled Mark out of a fielding position, so it became an almost impossible play to make. This inning isn't shaping up very well because now you have a couple of real tough guys with runners at the corners and only 1 out.
Kern's the first of them. He took strike 3 his first time up, and that one ricochets off Damian Miller. 0-1 your count. You've said many times, Stoney, that a pitcher becomes the 5th infielder upon releasing the baseball.
And watch where Mark Pryor is when he releases this ball. He makes his follow through, but he's sideways with very little of any chance to make that play. Most of the good fielding pitchers square off and they're ready to field.
That time Mark wasn't, and on the ricochet Larkin scored. Guillen moseyed around to third, and Casey has the game's first run batted in. 1-0 Reds. We're in the 3rd. Good breaking ball. Kearns took that.
Well, the first time up he got to 0-2 with Kearns very quickly and threw him a breaking ball for a ball, a breaking ball for a ball, and I'm sure Kearns figured he's got to throw a fastball. Well, he didn't, and he looked at strike 3.
Kearns was the Reds' first-round pick in 1998. He's only 22 years of age. He hit everywhere.
I think that was the year the Cubs drafted Corey Patterson with the 3rd pick in the country. They knew Kearns could play. They just didn't have as many picks in the top 10 as they would have liked.
You ever envision a time, Steve, where teams will be able to trade future #1 picks like they can in virtually every other sport?
I think that it would be a terrific thing to do, because especially in a good year, you can trade and get yourself 2 or 3 pretty good players.
Two balls, 2 strikes. Popped up. That should be caught. Martinez and Alex. It'll be the shortstop, Gonzalez. 2 men out. What about, though, the concern that people will say, well, what happens if the Cubs stockpiled 9 first-round picks over a 2-year period? Is that as harmful to the game as, say, the Yankees with a $180 million payroll signing all the available free agents?
Well, first of all, Chip, you get a year like you might have had this year where you have 3 or 4 consensus picks, and the Cubs felt that 1 through 6 perhaps pretty well determined, but after that it was really a crapshoot. This wasn't a deep draft, and so it didn't matter how many picks you had in the first round. If you picked lower than 6 or maybe 7, you were really taking a chance on a guy as far as stardom was concerned.
Boone jumps on the first pitch, rolls to third. Ramon makes the throw to second, and that will retire the side. But E5 cost the Cubs an unearned run. We move to the fourth inning with the Reds in front.
No one will ever just remember your name. No one will instantly make you their hero. No one will automatically give you respect just because you show up. You have to earn it.
Comcast, proud to be Chicagoland's new cable company.
Announcing the Ford authorized tent sale going on now at your local Ford store. For a limited time, get huge savings on Ford's best-selling vehicles. Get into an Explorer and choose 0% financing, or Ford will match your down payment up to $1,000 for a total of $4,500 cash down. Drive an Expedition and choose 0% financing or $2,500 cash back. The Ford authorized tent sale happens only once a year, so hurry in for the Ford authorized tent sale. If you haven't looked at Ford lately, look again.
What is this, some kind of joke? I don't get it.
Jeff Garcia faced adversity before getting the chance of a lifetime, but had to live up to unrealistic expectations.
The bar has been set so high.
Beyond the Glory, Sunday at 8 on Fox Sports Net.
As we head to our fourth inning, the Reds lead by a run. It's time to peek at our Aflac trivia question. What baseball first occurred in Cincinnati on opening day 1954?
It's a good question. 54 was a very good year for the Cleveland Indians, by the way.
Could it have been the first night opening day?
It could very well have been.
They played night baseball much earlier than that, but I wonder if the Reds opened at night. In 1954, Marty Brenneman was around then. Maybe we can ask him.
You are the Inspector Clouseau of baseball trivia. You and the Duck.
Hot shot down the left field line. Cubs have to get something going here against Paul Wilson. He's perfect through three, and since some of you feel that what we say has a direct impact on what takes place on the field, it's certain that Mark will break up the perfect game right here. One ball, two strikes.
Mark had a pretty good night last night. Had 3 hits and 5 at-bats. One of the ways he was able to do it was following that breaking ball and staying away from swinging at the pitch low and away out of the zone. That's been plaguing him on the road trip.
Cue ball shot toward Casey at first, and he will win the race to the bag. See, he could not break up the perfect game. At least not yet. 1 out in the fourth. 10 up, 10 down. Remember, Kerry Wood last night set down the first 17 men he faced.
If the perfect game continues through Gonzalez, Corey will break it up. So there's a caveat to that prediction.
Is it a caveat emptor or just a caveat?
Maybe the emptor, a little of that.
Okay. Alex struck out his first time. Ball 1 from Wilson here in the top of the fourth inning.
This is a real bad defensive team for Cincinnati, but the Cubs haven't put a whole lot of pressure on them to date. They are last in the league defensively, last in the league in pitching, third from the bottom in hitting, and through all of that, they find themselves still in the thick of the race. Just 4 games in back of the Cubs.
This would be a very scary team to face with a real solid arm at the top of the rotation in Cincinnati.
Well, unless Carl Lindner decides that he's going to let go of some of those well accumulated bucks, Jim Bowden, the GM, is not going to be able to go out and purchase anybody. And as far as trading is concerned, They traded for Felipe Lopez. He hasn't worked out, so they've had to mix and match in the infield. Lopez went down to the minor leagues. They're having to do things, Chip, like a released Jimmy Anderson was sent to their minor leagues after clearing waivers. He came back to pitch against the Cubs at the top of this series.
Fly ball center field, pretty well hit, but Kearns in the heavy air has an easy play. 2 outs. Jimmy Anderson was in a coma. They'd wake him up and pitch him against the Cubs.
Bring him back, but it didn't work out the other day. His back-to-back home runs for just the second time this year defeated him. So this is where the perfect game ends. I can't decide if I would give Corey the bunt sign, which he probably wouldn't do anyway, or just let him swing away. He had the day off yesterday. That enabled him to recharge the batteries.
Popped up and out of play. Dusty was noticing that Corey's bat was dragging through the strike zone. Sign of fatigue.
When that happens, normally you hit a lot of balls to left and left center, and you get under most everything. So you hit some lazy pop-ups and soft flies. But there's the end of the perfect game, by the way.
And the no-hitter. So Patterson is aboard. Let's see what Sammy can do now. Sammy grounded out short. He hit a rocket. Let's see if the Reds employ that dramatic shift with Sosa. They had Almeida playing right behind the second base bag. And again, the reception for Sosa less than scintillating, and that's something he's going to have to get used to away from Wrigley Field. Seven-game hit streak for Sosa. Let's try to get back to 9 over 500 with a win today. Strike one to Sammy. Other baseball. Pittsburgh leads Montreal 1-0. They swept a doubleheader, you'll recall. Atlanta and the Phillies are scoreless in the second. Cleveland's winning in Detroit 1-0 in the third.
It's the Guerrero-less Expos, and that really hurts that team.
I think we can encourage them to let Guerrero sit out the 3 we play Montreal in late September.
Well, if he doesn't have surgery, he should be healthy by then, but that's a question mark for them. They're trying to treat it without injecting it. He has a herniated disc, something that's tremendously painful.
Snap throw back to first. Corey back standing up, compounding that situation. Walk year for Guerrero. And can Major League Baseball trade him or sign him and get enough value in return to keep that franchise stable wherever it may play next year?
Well, they can do anything. He has tremendous value, but they have to make sure first that he's healthy.
That's my point. I mean,
because back surgery is real serious. 1, 2, it diminishes his value somewhat because you never know how he's going to come back. If you try to avoid surgery, what you have to worry about with any type of nerve involvement is muscle atrophy, and he swings as hard as anybody in the game. So there are some problems associated with this one.
Sammy hits a rocket into right field. 2 straight 2-out hits, and that'll bring up Alou here in the 4th inning. Guerrero's problems compounded too by playing a lot of games on the artificial surface.
Well, he'll be a much healthier man when they get off that surface, which doesn't appear to happen anytime soon, because not only is it an artificial surface in Montreal, but it is at Eram Bithorn Stadium in Puerto Rico. So they're on an extended road trip, which seemingly this entire season has been for them. And it looks like Montreal has started to hit the wall. They've lost 6 in a row, trailing today. And they find themselves trailing Atlanta by 8 full games.
Moises looks for his first hit against Wilson in his career. He's 0 for 8, including a flyout today. The other real compelling race in baseball is in the American League, the Central Division. Many thought the Twins were going to walk away. Well, they still very well may, but they've lost 5 in a row. Kansas City's pulled to within 1 game, and amazingly, Stoney, they're 21-5 within the division are the Royals. That's remarkable.
Well, the Royals aren't going to be able to add anything as far as payroll is concerned. They have a tremendous offense on this team. They've had some injuries to a very young pitching staff. Don't discount the Chicago White Sox. They're just 5.5 games back. And if they get Mark Burley turned around to go with Cologne and a resurgent Billy Koch out of the bullpen, they should be in pretty good shape for that run.
But if you look at the rest of the division, Minnesota 12-9 in the Central, Kansas City 21-5, the White Sox 14-17, Cleveland 14-11, and Detroit has lost 24 of 29 within the division. We've said since the unbalanced schedule was placed upon us that over the course of time, the team that has the best division records, the team that's going to win the division. That still may hold true. And Kansas City far and away the best record in the AL Central right now. They will play the Cardinals this weekend.
There's a couple of teams that didn't get a real good break with their natural rivals, and that is Kansas City having to go home and home with the Cardinals and the White Sox having to go home and home with the Cubs. And look at the natural rivals of Minnesota, and I think it's Milwaukee. Not quite as strong as either the Cubs or the Cardinals. Cleveland is Pittsburgh.
2 balls, 2 strikes, 2 on, 2 out. I would love to see interleague play continue. I love the idea of it. I just think it's time to scale it back and try to create the best matchups. 2 balls, 2 strikes. Hot shot. Boone off his glove. Couldn't handle it. And Patterson will be waved. Boone slides, comes up firing, and not in time. How about that? We're tied at 1 as Alou hits a laser beam down the third base line, and Patterson got the green light from Wavin Wendell Kim. Never hesitated. The third straight hit with 2 outs ties the game at 1.
Probably the only guy on this team that could have scored on this play is the man at second. Corey Patterson with tremendous speed, knowing that Boone is probably going to have to make the throw from his knees. Corey scores easily. And with 2 outs and nothing going on, Corey Patterson breaking up the no-hit perfect game bid, and the Cubs have tied it.
Here's Karros. Eric struck out his first time. And when I talk about the interleague play, I'd love to see the Cubs and White Sox tradition continue, but I'd like to see it paired back to a 4-game series with 2 in each park. And then just mix and match, roll the dice. Forget about the divisional rivalries with the interleague guys. 1 year you play the Yankees, 1 year you play Seattle, 1 year you play Anaheim, 1 year you play Tampa Bay.
Well, I'm thinking for the next 2 or 3 years you play 40 games against Detroit and Cleveland.
Sure.
And then even things out against Houston and St. Louis. Look at them a couple of times.
Tampa Bay maybe.
You can ease them in there.
Downstairs ball 3. The great thing about the schedule is you will get universal agreement in one area. Nobody likes it ever, no matter how favorable or unfavorable it's going to be.
Well, Moises Alou has really done a great job on this road trip, starting to pick it up as a run producer.
Karros sends a shot into center field. That's going to be caught by Kearns, you figure. Cubs get 3 hits with 2 outs. An infield hit from Alou. Plays Patterson. Ties the game at 1.
Not too close. What do you think? I got that insurance?
What insurance is that, Yogi?
The one you really need to have. If you don't have it, that's why you need it.
Need what?
Aflac. Well, if you get hurt and miss work, it won't hurt to miss work. And they give you cash, which is just as good as money.
Aflac. Ask about it at work.
Here we go. You want 3, what do you want, baby? Knock down all the bottles, win a prize. Yes, you, sir. Come on over. Yeah. Let's see what you got. Here we go. Impress the little lady.
When the target's refreshment, a Hard Mike's is good to find.
Give it a try now and see what you can do.
The Lexus LS, for the 7th year in a row, ranked the highest premium luxury sedan in initial quality by J.D. Power & Associates. No other sedan has ever been so honored, which might help explain why its owners consider it simply the best luxury sedan in the world. The Lexus LS, at your Chicago area Lexus dealer.
I got some serious demons I'm fighting.
If you think you've seen everything on Mike Tyson, think again.
I hate my life now. Maybe my next life, I'll have a better life.
Mike Tyson, Beyond the Glory. Viewer discretion strongly advised.
Back in Cincinnati and back for our Aflac trivia question. What baseball first occurred in Cincinnati opening day 1954? We guessed maybe it was the first night opener in the history of the Reds. Were we right? We were wrong.
Before that, of course, they had a big glove bin that they kept behind second base.
And of course, the glove bin was the inspiration for the Led Zeppelin classic Whole Lotta Glove, which all you rock fans have heard a lot. Adam Dunn leads off the fourth inning for Cincinnati, and Pryor falls behind him. 2 balls, no strikes.
Mark Pryor walked him in the second inning, putting himself into a jam, but getting out of it with a double play ground ball from Jason LaRue. Looks like the skies have cleared up somewhat. Supposedly, if we made it through that first band of showers, things would be okay.
Two and two to Dunn, who had a marvelous first half of the season, made the All-Star team last year. Frankly, has had all kinds of problems since. He drew a rare walk in the second inning. Now he's got a 2-2 count leading off the fourth. Game tied 1-1. Through the whole right side. Only the 19th single for Dunn this year, but he's aboard again leading off the fourth inning. Reds have had the leadoff man on 3 times in the first 4 innings of this game.
When Mark Pryor fell behind, then he had to go at Dunn with the fastball, and he took advantage of that. He's trying to keep it low and away, but as you can see, it's got too much of the plate and it's up, and Dunn takes it into right field.
LaRue wrapped into a 5-3 across the diamond double play last time up. That took the Reds out of a scoring chance in the second inning. They did, however, score in the third. A base hit by Sean Casey plated Barry Larkin.
Reds were saying that they were very pleasantly surprised at the resurgent power of Jason LaRue, as well as the improved defense. 12 home runs, his career high. He has 10 already.
Martinez can't get that ball. It's in the corner. Dunn runs pretty well. He's a former quarterback. Around third, he will go and stop there. LaRue doubles. They're at second and third with nobody out. 14 doubles for the Cincinnati catcher.
Pryor hangs a breaking ball, this on the inner portion of the plate, and with Martinez well off the line, he's got no chance for this. Moises does a nice job of trapping the ball in the corner, getting it back in, but 2 on, nobody out, and he'll deal with the bottom part of the order. The infield back, they're going to concede the run.
Almeida bunts foul.
Not a bad idea. But the key to getting that bunt down is the ability to hang around long enough to make contact with the infield back. If he stayed around, he would have easily gotten the bunt down. The run would have scored.
6 Cincinnati hits in the game, back to back. Bolts here in the fourth inning. Game tied 1-1. Not bunting that time. 1 ball, 1 strike.
Even with the bag at first. Martinez back a couple of steps at third.
1-2.
The guy has real good speed. I'm not sure the wisdom of playing back at third base for a left-hand hitter, because if it goes that way, it usually comes off the end of the bat and it's a squibber. And if you do have real good speed, you got a great shot at beating it out. Mark Prior looking for a strikeout. And then you have to deal with Wilson, who doesn't hit very well. Prior with 7 wild pitches this year, so a lot of pressure falls to Damian Miller to block anything down.
Little ground ball. He made contact and did his job. He runs well, but could not run the baseball. LaRue to third. Dunn scores. Olmedo gets his first RBI.
That's the first career RBI for Olmedo. All he did was lay the bat on the ball and then try to beat the play. Unfortunately, Alex wasn't quite as deep as you would expect. Now they've come in all 4 positions. Good piece of hitting by Olmedo, who took that breaking ball away. Alex has to hurry, and they just got it.
Mark wanted that pitch, didn't get it. With the pitcher Paul Wilson up, he's got a 2-1 lead now, does the Cincinnati hurler. Leadoff single, a LaRue double brings the Cub infield in after Olmedo drove in the tie-breaking run. Japanese.
Well, you can use what's called a safety squeeze if you want, and that is because Pryor's in a stretch. He's looking at LaRue. He doesn't break, and consequently you usually get the ball out over the plate. Then if you bunt it well, then you can run with LaRue.
He's squeezing, and Miller has an easy play. Wilson's got to somehow throw the bat at the ball there. He didn't, and the Cubs get an easy out.
Well, they would have been better served with the safety squeeze. A good breaking ball by Pryor, a good pickup by Miller. And for the second time in this series, Jason LaRue is cut down between home and third.
What a marvelous play by Miller to catch that sweeping ball, pick it cleanly, and then embargo the plate. So LaRue is caught stealing. 1-2. 1-2 the count to the pitcher with 2 outs.
I got to take my chances bringing Barry Larkin to bat this inning. Fortunately, Boone didn't.
And that's all they get. Sometimes when you play for a run, you lose by a run. Wilson strikes out. The Reds, though, take the lead 2-1 after 4.
Want the spirit of American style, but you want to save lots of this? Then you want this guy. Big Joe for Grant Dean Buick. That's me. Grant Dean Buick has over 600 vehicles in stock, like this 2003 Buick Rendezvous, fully equipped for just $19,895. When you want to save this, and you want a name you can trust, you want Big Joe. That's me. Big Joe. And you want him at Grant Dean Buick, Route 41 and Park Avenue West in Highland Park.
The biggest new car tent event is going on right now at Rizza Chevy. Now through Saturday, June 21st. Get $3,000 to $12,000 off on over 600 new Chevys, like the new 2003 Cavalier for just $87.95. Or get 0% financing for 60 months or $4,000 cash back. And Rizza Chevy will pay off your trade no matter how much you owe. It's the biggest new Chevy tent event, and it's going on now through Saturday only at Rizza Chevy in Bridgeview.
Chevrolet from RIDCA. Rizza Chevrolet is the only place to buy.
Why is Shooter's Chicagoland's favorite buffet? For one, light eaters really appreciate the incredible salad bar, fresh pasta salads, delicious fish, and stir fry. Meat eaters go wild for Shooter's freshly sliced meats, chicken, and dozens of side dishes. Kids get to eat all of their favorite foods. Singles, couples, and families of all sizes love Shooter's buffet. Whether you're a light eater or have a hearty appetite, Shooter's is the affordable choice every day of the week. Harwood Heights, Homewood, and Glendale Heights.
Show period. Weeknights on Fox Sports Net.
Gail Fisher here in the Fox Sports Net studios with this Pontiac in-game update. Some other games going on as we speak. Looking at the scores, Montreal trails Pittsburgh 1-0. Kenny Lofton's double play grounder scores the only run in that game. Atlanta and Philly still scoreless in the third. Mike Hampton on the mound for the Braves, holding the Phillies hit list so far. That gets you caught up on some other scores. Chip and Steve, let's send it back to you.
All right, Gail, thank you very much. Cincinnati gets one. They ran themselves into the second out. Wilson struck out to end the Reds' fourth, and now in the fifth, Martinez, Miller, and Pryor will be coming up. As always, it's our Toyota fan of the game inning, and today's contestant is Esther Sineni from Chicago. If the Cubs score here in the fifth, Esther will win a Fox Sports Net Toyota prize package, which includes a hat and a t-shirt. I think Esther's her middle name. I think Polly is the first, as the fans try to take cover here at the Great American Ballpark.
Improvising those rain fashions. Ramon hit the ball very well last time up, but lined it right at Boone.
And Wilson continues to throw very effectively for Cincinnati today. He's won his last two decisions for the Reds. They've also gotten good performances the last couple of times out from Ryan Dempster. Boone, though, has a clean play. One up, one down in the Cub fifth.
Last year, Paul Wilson was at Tampa Bay, where he was for a couple of years, and Larry Rothschild, talking about him, said he's a great man to have on the club. He's going to pitch a lot of innings for you. He's not going to dominate people like he used to, but he's a terrific competitor who gets the most out of what he has, and so far his Reds are leading by a run.
Well, Wilson might want to look alive, because Miller almost undressed him last time up. A line drive right back up the middle that Wilson caught with the left hand. Three hits, one costly Cub error today. 2 runs, 6 hits, no errors for Cincinnati. Cubs hope to take a 2-game lead with them back to Chicago, pending the outcome of the Diamondbacks and Astros, who play later on tonight at Minute Maid Park in downtown Houston. Cubs and Pirates are the only teams in the Central at 500 or above on the road, and that one down the left field line. Miller watches that baseball. Rocket foul by inches.
That wasn't foul by much. Jeff Kellogg hugging the line, taking a long look at it, and unfortunately for Damian, that ball hooked and was fouled by about 1.5 yards.
So it's fouled by 54 inches, is what you're saying.
In the neighborhood, give or take.
3-2 pitch. Driven to right. Guillen on the run. Makes the play. Sharply hit, but Miller 0 for 2. Here's Pryor. He can tie the game himself if he hits one over Dunn's head, perhaps. Again, the Cubs back home for the White Sox this weekend. Milwaukee coming up next. Brewers in June 24th, 5th, and 6th. That wraps up the June schedule. No schools out, so great chance to bring the kids to the ballpark. Weather in Chicago is supposed to be just gorgeous. Mid to upper 70s. The next 6 games at home. And of course, we head to the south side of town at the end of the month, then go to Philadelphia, then a very long homestand to start off July, the 4th of July weekend with the Cardinals at Chicago.
There's a few teams the Cubs haven't seen. They've seen a whole lot of the Reds. They haven't seen Atlanta. They haven't seen Florida. They haven't seen Philadelphia.
Los Angeles or Arizona.
Somewhat surprising in that we are heading toward the latter part of June, and there's still some holes in the schedule as far as taking a look at some of the better clubs in the league. Not necessarily a bad thing as far as the Cubs are concerned.
One ball, 2 strikes to Mark Pryor.
Paul Wilson is not going to dominate you, but with his control, he keeps himself in the game. This is a guy with 20 more hits than innings pitched, but he hasn't walked anybody today.
Well, he's 1 pitch away from changing that and giving Grudzielanek a chance to keep the 5th inning going. And he does issue a walk to Pryor. Good eye from Mark. Right now, Grudzielanek, the #1 hitter in the Cub lineup, will have a chance here in the 5th to turn the game around.
And I don't think Mark is going to ask for the jacket. It's pretty humid here in Cincinnati, although the temperatures, I don't think, have reached 80 quite yet. All in all, it turned out to be weather-wise a pretty good series. Sometimes this time of year you can get some baking temperatures and high humidity.
Outside corner, good pitch. Strike 1 to Grudzielanek, who's popped out and grounded out today. 3 for 5 was Mark yesterday. They play him straight away, pretty deep here, and a roller toward third past Wendell Kim and out of play. He's down 0-2 now. Another big series for which there are lots of good tickets available. July 7th, 8th, and 9th. The Florida Marlins will be in town. Mike Lowell, Luis Castillo, Dontrell Willis, the former Cub farmhand, and also a midweek series of games. Monday night, July 7th, Tuesday and Wednesday, 120 games.
We'll also get to see Jack McKeon, who has recently taken over the ball club. They find themselves 14 games out of first place, with at least a couple of teams, the Los Angeles Dodgers and the Chicago Cubs, on the low watch.
So weekend tickets are going to be a little tougher to come by than the weekday affairs, and some good series coming up. So come on out, jump on the Cub bandwagon. We'd love to see you at Wrigley Field. John McDonough tells us that ticket sales are going great. A lot of great promotions coming up, but the biggest promotion of all, very good baseball, very good pitching, and we've seen that on this trip. Awful lot to be excited about, with Sammy Sosa back as well for the Cub offense.
And an added inducement tomorrow is brand new chairs in the booth day.
We've been looking forward to that.
Oh, these 14 years.
Exactly. Grudzielanek swings and misses. Paul Wilson, throwing a very good ball game today, is protecting a 1-run lead into the bottom of the 5th.
Got an old buddy waiting for a visit in Washington? With everyday low fares on Southwest Airlines, flying to BWI is your best route to the capital.
You are now free to move about the country.
Rejuvenate your 75,000-mile engine with Pennzoil High Mileage Vehicle. The motor oil specially formulated for the needs of your older, wiser vehicle. Pennzoil, we're driving protection.
Get a $7 rebate on a signature service oil change with Pennzoil synthetic or high mileage vehicle motor oils.
Nice work. Hit the road.
Lights out. Time to go home.
Where do you think you're going? Fran, you're staying late.
Chevy's getting the word out. Now get 0% APR for 60 months on every 2003 Chevy Suburban and Tahoe. Or get $3,000 cash back.
Stevens, get back to work. Slacker.
Chicago Cubs baseball is brought to you in part by Toyota. Get the feeling.
Corona Extra, miles away from the ordinary. And by your Chicagoland Ford stores. If you haven't looked at Ford lately, look again.
Concourse level at the Great American Ballpark. Stadium Club as well. All the modern touches, but Reds fans enjoying the spectacle taking place on the Emerald below us today. The Reds lead it by a 2-1 score heading to the 5th inning, and heading to the top of the order is Mark Pryor to face Larkin, Guillen, and Sean Casey. And before we continue on, Steve, I think it's appropriate to say a hearty congratulations to Hal McCoy, a great beat writer for the Reds with the Dayton Daily News. He will join a long list of great distinguished baseball writers in baseball's Hall of Fame this July 27th. And for those of us who get a chance to travel to Cincinnati and talk with the Reds folks, he's one of the nicest people you ever meet, and an honor richly, richly deserved. So, Hal, congratulations from all of us.
He says he's working on that speech as we speak. Should be a huge day for him.
Barry Larkin sends a shot into right center field. Nobody's getting that. That'll bounce all the way to the wall. Patterson kicks it around a bit, but Larkin in at second with a leadoff double. And the leadoff man has given Pryor all kinds of trouble so far in this game.
He was able to retire the leadoff man one time, that coming into 3rd inning when he fanned Wilson. And then after the error, he gave up a run that was unearned. This time, the breaking ball that's plague marked today just hangs out over the plate. Normally, either the curve or slider breaks so quickly that right-handers don't have a real good shot at it. That's not the case today.
Well, let's see if Guillen gives himself up and gets Larkin over to 3rd base. He struck out and has singled today. He does. A beautiful bunt, and Pryor will apply the tag. Sacrifice one unassisted. That's what a number 2 hitter has to do, even one with the power Guillen possesses. Larkin to 3rd, one away for Casey.
Pretty smart baseball. Instead of trying to guide the ball to the right side, which is probably a weakness, Jose Guillen takes that fastball and just bunts it that way. Not something that he does very often, but in the 2 spot this year, he's done it now for the 5th time.
So another RBI chance for Casey. The infield comes in. That's a testament to how well Wilson's pitching today. We're in the 5th. 2-1 Reds. Casey, normally a pretty good man for contact. That's what the Reds are hoping here. He had an infield hit that plated Larkin. Score the first Cincinnati run this afternoon.
He hit that one right off the leg of Mark Pryor.
One ball, one strike. This day in baseball history, way back in 1846, the first organized baseball game played between Alexander Cartwright's New York Knickerbockers and the New York Nine. Sharply hit right to second. That's why the infield plays in. Casey broke his bat. There's a big second out. Of course, the first professional team was right here in Cincinnati. Reds.
Cincinnati Red Stockings. And they toured all around. And in those days, Chip, when you took a pitch, you asked the umpire, well, he asked you where you wanted it, high or low. If you told him high, as soon as the first pitch came in, he would give you a warning. And then after that, he would call either 4 balls or 3 strikes. And the catchers with no masks were 20 feet behind the plate. So it was a completely different game. Also, you could be retired on 1 hop in foul territory.
And obviously, the Baseball Players Union back then didn't have nearly as good a dental plan as they have now. That's why the catcher played.
That's very true.
As far behind the plate.
And gloves were at a premium.
Sure. That's tipped off the glove of Miller. Speaking of that, no balls, 2 strikes. It is a great history of the game, the way it has evolved. Back in the old days in 1903, the first World Series play, it was best of 9, not best of 7 World Series.
Well, now they'd play it into Thanksgiving if they did that. This is where you have to be careful because of the breaking balls in the dirt if you go that way.
That one way upstairs. They very well might play to Thanksgiving if they had another round of playoffs, which is what baseball has been talking about too, giving the teams with the best record in baseball a first-round bye and adding another wild card team to play the other two divisional leaders.
You'll see that one before too long.
1-2 is your count. Bounced off the plates. Then you get into what baseball purists say is the desecration of the sport. They say there was no more great challenge than when it was just the National and American Leagues and you had one winner period from each league that met in the World Series.
Well, that was all well and good before the competition for the entertainment dollar became as fierce as it is right now. And you don't want to see teams eliminated in June.
1-2 pitch. And we see that now already. And I think the fans have embraced the evolutionary processes of the game. If you want to be a downright strict traditionalist, you wouldn't play any night games. You wouldn't have any television. You wouldn't have polyester uniforms. You wouldn't have integration of baseball. You'd travel by train, and the list goes on and on. 2-2. Swing and a line drive to left. Can Alou make the play? He can. And Pryor, a heck of a job of pitching, had a man at third with one out. Casey and Kearns couldn't drive home the third run.
In the blink of an eye,
They're infected.
the virus struck.
Use the blood. Keep away from me.
There's something in the blood. The devastation spread, and the world he knew was gone.
No! No! No!
He thinks he's alone, but he's not.
They wake up today in hospital.
28 days later. Rated R starts Friday, June 27th.
Major League Baseball legends, future All-Stars, celebrities. Radio Shack All-Stars Sunday, July 13th. For tickets, visit the U.S. Cellular Field box office or MLB.com.
Cubs fans, with summer road construction, public transportation is a quick, convenient way to get you to the game. Take the train or bus, and the CTA takes you right to the gates of Wrigley Field. And remember, if you do drive, come early, enjoy batting practice, and take advantage of the early bird discount.
The Hyundai Santa Fe, a comparison. More standard features than a Ford Escape XLS, all for over $1,400 less when comparably equipped. And only the Santa Fe is protected by America's best warranty. 10 years, 100,000 miles. Looks like we have a winner. Test drive the Hyundai Santa Fe, nicely equipped for just $17,634 at your Hyundai dealer. Hurry in for the Santa Fe Triple Play and get $1,000 cash back or a $199 a month lease or 0% APR through June 30th.
Cubs baseball is brought to you in part by Comcast, proud to be Chicagoland's new cable company.
Hey, the Cubs and Sox, in case you just got out of the cave, are playing tomorrow. 2:20 is the first pitch of Game 1 of the Crosstown Classic. It'll be Sean Estes and former Cub farmhand John Garland. And we'll have all the fun right here for you on Fox Sports Net Chicago.
It will lose some of the charm, though, as we move home and don't have the opportunity to wait those 10 or 12 minutes in the elevator like we do here in sunny Cincinnati.
What, you're not speaking of the ballpark, are you?
Oh, no, the ballpark is terrific. And the people here are very nice around this great American ballpark. They treat us exceptionally well.
I think I know what you're talking about. Yes, I understand your problem. A few housekeeping issues at the team hotel. A little stingy with the towels and air conditioning. 1 ball, 1 strike to Alex Gonzalez, who's 0 for 2. And that's rolled foul for a 1-2 count.
This should be a pretty good inning as far as the Cubs are concerned. They go through the heart of the order the 3rd time through the lineup. They know by now that Wilson is less than overpowering, but he's made some good pitches.
Ground ball to short. Larkin handles the 5th hop. 1 man away in the 6th.
That's how you allow a hitter to get himself out on a pitcher's pitch. That ball was out away from Alex. Instead of going to right field, he rolls over the top of it. The only thing you can do is ground to the left side. And he hit it right at Larkin. Look at the location. It's a perfect pitcher's pitch. When you get out in front of it, you roll the hands over and it becomes an easy ground ball to short. It was Corey Patterson who broke up the no-hitter last time up.
Let's see if Corey can tie the game at 2. He's 1 for 2 on the day. We'll get back to Chicago at a very, very friendly hour. Fight through rush hour traffic and head on down to Harry Carey's for, I guess, it's been a good road trip. I'm sure you'll have a couple of tales today.
And I certainly don't want to break tradition, so I will, of course, allow you to pick up the tab, lay that egregiously large tip on the folks.
It's embarrassing. Ground ball, foul past first. Yeah, we're a little overdue for some chicken Vesuvio, a little calamari, and yes, Grant DePorter and Beth Heller, if you can stock up the coconut sorbet and the fried meat ravioli, will be in around 6:30 or so.
I'm looking forward to the luncheon.
Corey with a poor swing.
We'll have an opportunity to talk to Corey Patterson and Joe Borowski on the 24th. And tickets are going very quickly, so you might want to call up Harry Carey's. You have a nice luncheon. There you see the number. Chip and I will try to regale you with stories of his recent past, my lengthy past. And talking with Borowski and Patterson, we'll get an idea and a little insight into what makes this team go.
Sammy flirts with an extra base hit, but rolls it foul for a strike. He's 1 for 2 and extended his hitting streak to 8 games. The Cubs have hit the Reds very effectively. They've hit 17 home runs in 10 completed games so far this year. Hot shot, Boone, backhand to a knee, spins, fires, and gets his man. That kid can pick it over at third base. 3 up, 3 down in the 6th inning. Reds clinging to a 2-1 lead.
Announcing the Ford authorized tent sale going on now at your local Ford store. For a limited time, get huge savings on Ford's best-selling vehicles. Choose 0% financing for 5 years or $3,000 cash back on F-150. Get into a Ranger and choose 0 for 60, or Ford will match your down payment up to $1,000 for a total of $5,000 down. The Ford authorized tent sale happens only once a year, so hurry in for the Ford authorized tent sale. If you haven't looked at Ford lately, look again.
The city is up for grabs. Sammy and the Cubs are anxious to showcase their strength, as Mags and the Sox look to prove they're the best in the city. Cubs, White Sox, tomorrow at 1:30 on Fox Sports Net.
Come see why Castle Buick Pontiac GMC has been Chicagoland's first choice for over 22 years. Rain, snow, or shine, shop indoors in our 35,000 square foot showroom. Choose from over 500 new and used vehicles in stock, and always get the best service and the best prices right up front. Come see how car shopping should be, and don't forget, before you buy, come see the Castle guy.
Before you buy, see the Castle guy. Castle Buick Pontiac GMC.
Despite years of racing stock cars, motorcycles, and dirt bikes, the only ride that truly scared Bill Wilt was the short trip in an ambulance when he had that unbearable pain in his chest.
I thought I was going to die, but the doctors at Gottlieb Hospital pulled me through with a quadruple bypass, and I haven't felt this good in 20 years.
Gottlieb Memorial Hospital's group of heart surgeons perform some 2,000 open heart operations in the Chicago area each year. At Gottlieb, we're bringing quality to life.
Beautiful Covington, Kentucky, across the river from the Great American Ballpark. And after our game, we'll have the always exciting Fifth Third Bank Cubs Post, all the highlights and analysis with Gail and Dave. It's the Fifth Third Bank Cubs Post right after this one on Fox Sports Net. And Steve, this is pretty easy to analyze. Paul Wilson's throwing a 1-run, 3-hit game with the Cub offense tonight.
And with the defense like what Aaron Boone pulled off last inning, you could understand it. This isn't a good offensive or a good defensive team, and yet the Cubs are trying the wrong guy because Boone is a very good defensive third baseman.
Ramon handles a big hop, sharply hit, but one away in the Cincinnati 6th. Boone 1 for 3. Here's Dunn. He scored the tie-breaking run for the Reds. Led off the 4th with a single, moved to 3rd on a LaRue double, and Olmedo made contact and drove him in.
We've been telling you for a while that this is a very offensive park, and yet when you look at this series, neither team has scored over 4 runs in any game. That's most unusual. Last night the Cubs got 4 early, and then the Reds shut them down, but Kerry Wood made it stand up.
Two balls, no strikes to Dunn. A breaking ball. 2-1. Tigers' woes continue. Cleveland's hammering them 6-0 in the 5th inning. Detroit is 17-51. They've won just 6 of 34 games at home.
Pryor is at the 100 pitch mark, not through the 6th inning yet. And the difference with Kerry last night was that he threw everything over the plate early in the count. All 3 at bats to Dunn, for instance. Mark Pryor has fallen behind. Now he'll have to make another 3-2 pitch.
Dunn protecting the plate, forces another offering from Mark Pryor. Mark's won his last 3 ball games.
He's been an excellent pitcher overall for the Cubs.
Right down the middle. Dunn couldn't pull the trigger. And even today, Steve, on a day when you feel like Mark doesn't have his good stuff, he's given up just 2 runs in this ballpark to this team.
2 runs, only 1 of them earned, as he throws the breaking ball on 3-2, and Dunn just frozen. So if you can get a curve or slider over consistently in a fastball situation, you're going to surprise a lot of hitters.
That one a little bit off the plate. 0-1.
That's the 2nd time in the series the Cubs have thrown one behind a Cincinnati hitter. It happened the other night with Jose Guillen. And this one just slipped out of his hands. That was another breaking ball that kind of slid away. Fortunately for the Cubs and LaRue, it didn't hit him.
Two balls, no strikes. Out of play. 2-1 to the Red catcher. We're in the 6th inning. Cincinnati with a 2-1 lead. Very low scoring series. We were raving about how this place is a home run hitter's haven. There have been a few popped in the series, but not too many runs overall. Cubs won game 1 of the series 4-3. They lost the 2nd game 2-1. They won last night 4-1. They're trailing here 2-1, and Pryor will take care of LaRue. He works a spotless 6th. Into the 7th we go, trailing by a single digit.
If you're looking for the biggest savings event of the year,
Toyota's got it.
if you're looking for the largest selection of the year,
Toyota's got it.
you'll find it all right now at Toyota's tent event.
Toyota's got it.
Go for great customer choice savings on the powerful iForce V8 Tundra, like 1.9% financing or $2,000 customer cash. Or check out the great deals on the rugged Tacoma. If you want it, this tent event's got it. Now at your Toyota dealer.
Toyota's got it.
Come on, Cupcake, you can do it.
Come on, tough guy.
Papa, baby, come on. We're almost
You're
there.
inside of that thing.
Good job, man. Dude, grab your mics. There's nothing but a fish and empty bottles in here.
When you're fishing for refreshment, a hard Mike's is good to find.
Make it Mike's.
The new 2003 Pontiac Grand MSE has more power than Jetta GL, more torque, and better fuel efficiency. Our car drivers wanted more. Just announced. Get $4,000 cash back on a 2003 Grand Am SE. With cash back, a brand new 2003 Grand Am SE starts around $13,700. See your Chicagoland Pontiac dealer.
Totally NASCAR. Your season-long destination for everything that is NASCAR. Weeknights on Fox Sports Net.
We'll take a look at the Ford-game summary. Mark Pryor has been pretty good, yielding only 1 earned run, but Paul Wilson has been just a little bit better, yielding just 1 run overall. And Cincinnati leads 2-1. Cubs have been out hit 7-3, and they've made the only error of the game so far. It's been very tough and tight, as have all the games in the series. You figured there would be an offensive explosion, but we're in the 4th of 4, and there hasn't been one yet.
Well, let's see if in this 7th inning, the middle of the order for the Cubs, Alou, Karros, and Martinez can get something going. Just a 1-run game. Reds have won a great deal of 1-run games this year, but they've only won 3 times when they've scored less than 3. And Alou gets hit. Let's see if we got a warning here. I think we might. Alou gets popped, leading off the 7th inning. Remember, the Cubs just threw behind Jason LaRue.
Well, if Moises is okay, you don't mind that representing the tying run. And hopefully he will be okay. Normally you'll throw one up and in if you want to make your point, but you don't want to make your point and lose sight of the fact that this is a huge game as far as the Cubs are concerned. That one hit off the inside of the right knee, and Moises appears to be all right. So apparently he pays the price for a couple of breaking balls that got away.
No warning, however, issued, and a line drive hit to Dunn in left. Off the bat of Eric Karros, sharply hit, but nothing to show for it. 1 on, 1 out.
Ramon Martinez has hit the ball hard twice, and you would think if Wilson was going to stay inside, this is the time when you have to look for perhaps a double down the line. Surprisingly, Boone is off the line by about 15 feet. Now LaRue looking over at the elder Boone to see how they want to pitch Ramon Martinez, who's been a pull hitter.
Cincinnati's pen gets busy as southpaw is up. I'll tell you who it is in a moment. Kent Merker, who has thrown in this series. In fact, he pitched a 3rd of an inning last night. Very good pitching on display in this series by both teams. 1 ball, 1 strike.
Paul Wilson is not a guy you'd associate with complete games. He has yet to throw one this year.
Flare, shallow right center field. Olmedo goes out, makes the play. 2 outs for the catcher, Damian Miller.
The Cub bullpen up and going. It's Kyle Farnsworth, and you would think that if Miller can keep it going, they would decide to go to the pen. 87 pitches for Wilson. He's been economical. He's been effective. He's only allowed the 1 run. All 3 hits coming with 2 outs in the 4th inning.
One thing about this Cincinnati team, just like the Cubs, although on paper you figure the Cubs starting staff to be much more effective than the Reds, once you get into their bullpen late, you're going to have a few problems.
Troy O'Leary in the on-deck circle if Miller can keep it alive. One of the things you have to worry about, we always talk about secondary leads. You have to worry about your secondary lead with LaRue behind the plate because he loves to throw behind the base runner. And he's got a very quick release and a strong arm. You get too adventuresome at first, you run the risk of getting picked off.
Short lead. Ground ball to short. Larkin will flip to second in time, and Wilson has worked 7 innings of one-run baseball. He and Dempster have been quite a 1-2 punch in this series. 2-1 Reds lead it.
Southwest Airlines. More than 2,700 nonstop daily flights to 59 destinations all across the country.
After spicing up the available sound of the 2003 Cavalier, Chevy went to work on America's music.
Man, I know it's the blues, but why so sad? I think we ought to pep this up a little bit. Dig this.
Maybe we'll stick to what we do best. Now get 0% APR financing for 60 months or $4,000 cash back on Cavalier. See your Chicagoland and Northwest Indiana Chevy dealers today.
Introducing Rain-X Car Wax. The same transparent polymer technology that makes our windshield treatment so effective now keeps your whole car protected from rain, dirt, UV rays, and more. There's almost nothing Rain-X Wax won't protect your car from. Almost. New Rain-X Car Wax. Protection you can see.
Right. Got it. Yeah. Well, that's great news. I appreciate it. Goodbye. Well, I've got some fantastic news.
I'm out of here.
No, it was Geico. I just saved myself a bunch of money on my car insurance.
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance.
2-1 Cincinnati has the lead as we head to the bottom half of our 7th inning. Steve Stone, Chip Carey back at the Great American Ballpark. Once again, Stoney, the Cubs offense held in check by Paul Wilson today, and one unearned run has proven to be the difference so far.
And so far, both pitchers throwing very well, and it was one error that separated these two teams in a series we thought would be an offensive series. Hasn't turned out that way, and so a physical error, maybe a mental mistake, has turned around the games as the Reds are trying to split it. The Cubs are trying to win 3 of 4.
So the Cubs go to the bullpen first. Kyle Farnsworth is now going to take over in a one-run game. You got to hold these guys right here and hope that the Cubs can do something with a very good Cincinnati bullpen in the final 2 turns they have at bat.
There you look at Kyle Farnsworth having a particularly good year. So a good outing by Mark Pryor. And at this point, the only thing that he can hope for is to come away with a no decision, because the only decision he could get is the L, and he really didn't deserve that.
And speaking of the L, I encourage you to ride it this weekend. The Cubs and Sox doing battle at Wrigley Field. The red line takes you right to Wrigley Field. It drops you off at the Addison station. Then you can walk through the Wrigleyville neighborhood right to Wrigley Field. And it should be a very busy weekend. It should be a lot of fun too. The Sox playing better. Cubs coming off a terrific road trip to this point. Hopefully they'll discover a little more offense. Farnsworth gives up a leadoff single in the 7th inning.
You have to figure that Wilson is going to bunt. And sometimes what aggressive managers will do is use a bunt and run. What happens is, if you have a speedy base runner, in this case Almeida does have very good speed, you start him. You want your pitcher then to bunt it to third base, in this case Ramon Martinez, and then Almeida doesn't stop. He tries to run all the way to third, where you try to surprise the defense and nobody's covering. So now Karros goes to talk with Farnsworth on just exactly which way he wants him to charge in case there is a bunt, and might be reminding him, if the bunt is to Ramon, you go cover third.
That's a big run over at first base. And it's a pitch off the glove of Miller, so they don't have to sacrifice now. As Olmedo moves, and now Wilson and Farnsworth get into it. Oh, a takedown by Farnsworth, and a couple of haymakers landed. Whoa! Wilson takes exception. Farnsworth comes up and in, and we've got a Donnybrook. Bench is empty, and they're trying to pull folks off the pile. A takedown by Farnsworth to Wilson, right out of the pages of WWF Wrestling. What you hope doesn't happen is that anybody gets hurt.
Gary Matthews is trying to break it up, and he's just saying, look, get off of me. I'm trying to get my guys out of there. Gary's been in his share of battles, but he's trying to act as the peacemaker. And they finally separate the guys.
Now Farnsworth is hollering. Dusty Baker talking with one of the Reds over there. It might be Guillen, who says, come and get me. And now LaRue pushes him back. I mean, enough's enough. Points been made. Certainly we're going to have some ejections. And so order finally restored here. They're going to try to send the Reds over to their dugout. Farnsworth comes up and in on Wilson, who was trying to bunt. The pitch was a wild pitch.
Looked like Wilson got the worst of that one.
Well, there were some haymakers landed by Farnsworth. There's no doubt about that.
Well, Wilson said something when Farnsworth came in, because as the ball got away, he was coming in, and Wilson said something, and looked like an Eagles landed on his nose.
If you're going to go to the mound,
or say something to a pitcher who's
you're asking for
a pretty good sized guy.
I don't know if it was a punch that got him or if he got headbutted on the way down, but folks, watch this. This was,
well, first of all, that ball wasn't inside all that much, and Farnsworth doesn't want to throw it to the screen. And then Wilson has something to say about, well, that's going to be okay. It was Wilson that went out to get Farnsworth. Big mistake, as he gets racky-tacked right around home plate.
Now,
and then they try to break it up.
I mean, I'm not here to encourage anybody charging the mound under any circumstances, but that pitch, you're right, that was not a purpose pitch. He knows the pitcher's trying to bunt. He's hoping he'll pop it up. It didn't come that close to him, and then Wilson starts to pop off, and then he charges the mound.
Well, the pitch was 3 inches inside. I mean, Paul Wilson obviously got the worst of that, and he has a whole lot of blood on the uniform.
That's going to be a wild pitch. The runner's at second base, and now Joe West and the rest of the crew is going to try to iron this out. Surely Farnsworth's going to be gone. Wilson's knocked out of the game. It looks like he may have broken his nose.
Well, I know you have to eliminate Farnsworth, but it didn't appear to be his fault. Wilson was the guy that went at Farnsworth, and Farnsworth just tackled him.
No question about it.
And Wilson was the guy that mentioned something to Farnsworth. That's what Dusty is saying. He says, wait a second. My guy didn't throw at Paul Wilson. And my guy didn't charge Paul Wilson.
Absolutely right. That's why, again, if Farnsworth had hit him, well, you can make a case. That wasn't close. It was a fastball inside, and we've seen that a million times.
Well, first of all, Chip, on a bunt situation, you want to throw the ball up and in, and it's Wilson that went after him. And then Wilson gets all the worst of it as Farnsworth takes him down with a body slam and then lands a couple of right hooks to the beak. Wilson's in a bad spot. The bottom of the pile with a guy about 250 pounds, all muscle, right on top of him. And there goes the first.
Ian came in a little late, and then the scrum ensues, but that's, hey, if you're going to go to the mound, that's the fate you're going to suffer. And again, if Farnsworth had tried to hit him, if he was throwing at him, if he threw behind him, you can make the case for Wilson going to the mound. But quite frankly, that was some stupid baseball from Paul Wilson. Absolutely unnecessary.
Looks to me like Wilson might have had his face dragged on the baseline a couple times. Came away with some abrasions. And I think the Cubs are going to see Farnsworth taken out. I know that Wilson will be ejected, and they're going to have to go to the pen. As now they want to fight some more down the right side. It's Danny Graves.
He wants to fight his own team. Is that done? Now the Cubs are going to come back out again and say he wants some more. Who's he screaming at? Grunzalonic and Karros, I guess?
No.
And now again the Cincinnati guys come out of their bullpen.
It wasn't Adam Dunn. He's just kind of standing there.
So Ray Knight out with Joe West. Probably talking about where can we get a good tee time out in Arizona. That's where the Reds head next. Now Dusty Baker's out. Bob Boone's going to come out. Let's see if we can move these proceedings along. I know you've talked a lot, Steve, about an area where baseball really should improve the way they handle these kinds of situations. There's no way 4 umpires and 9 or 10 coaches are going to break up 50 guys piling on in the middle of the field. How about the third man in the...
Well, Chip, what we've seen over the last week, we've seen about 4 or 5 bench clearing brawls. I talked with Bud Selig about this before, and if they really indeed want to do away with battling in the middle of the diamond where guys get hurt on the periphery, it's a very simple thing to do. There's no more violent game in the world than ice hockey. The guys are bigger, they hit harder, and they hit consistently in that game.
And they wear razor blades on their feet.
Well, and what they've done is made sure that after the 2 combatants are through, the referees are able to easily break them up. It could happen here also if you make a 3rd man in rule. You could have easily broken up Farnsworth and Wilson, and probably Wilson would have come away unscathed after the tackle because you got 4 guys to do it. When you allow people to run in from the bullpen, run off the bench, jump on the pile, and do all of those other things, you run the risk of some guys you can't afford to lose being lost. And then you have this drawing back and forth, and everything else goes with it. So if baseball is intent on breaking up what has been for them very time-consuming, one sometimes devastating if a couple of your regulars get hurt, it's easily done. And now Karros is yelling into the dugout and pretty much saying, hey, I'm out here, I'm not going anywhere. We also don't have any jockeys on our pitching staff, so if you guys want to take care of them, they're more than willing to be here.
But I go back to what I said
Well, now
before.
they're telling Danny Graves, so why don't you sit down, worry about starting your next game, and let this thing end. It's 32. It's Danny Graves, I believe.
And it's Adam Dunn, too. But I go back to what I said before. If Farnsworth was trying to hit Wilson, you can make a case for him being upset and charging the mound. Now, since time immemorial, pitchers are thrown inside when a guy is in a bunt situation, and this ball misses him by a foot.
Well, you also want to throw up and in because you want him to pop the ball up. He didn't hit him. He didn't come all that close. And then Wilson has something to say, and then he goes and charges him.
Not too smart.
Well, he might not have taken a look at the size of Kyle Farnsworth or realized that at 4% body fat, you're probably going to come in second in this one.
And this is a spot where I hope that Bob Watson, who will get tapes of this ball game, will figure out who instigated this situation. Kyle Farnsworth did not instigate this situation. Yes, we're Cub announcers. We call it as it is, folks. Paul Wilson shouted at Farnsworth. He answered. Wilson went to the mound.
And that's, I'm sure when they get the game films, they take a look at it, they'll see just exactly what happened. And now nobody can settle down Danny Graves, who suddenly thinks he's Randy Macho Man Savage. He wasn't involved in this one as a starting pitcher. Have him just sit down. They can get this game onward.
And with all due respect to Danny Graves, he couldn't pitch because he had a blister today. I think that says all that needs to be said about that. So Wellmeyer is going to come in now. Farnsworth is out of the game after giving up the hit to Almeida. The wild pitch as well. And Rob Butcher, the fine PR man for the Cincinnati Reds, will update us on who's been ejected from the game. Almost certainly it's Wilson. Almost certainly it's Farnsworth. And whether or not anyone else has been tossed remains to be seen. But we've had a delay here of 8 or 9 minutes. After a bench clearing scrum that saw Paul Wilson take a tattooing, and very stupidly so.
Yeah, they redecorated his uniform, and I think rubbed his head along the baseline somewhat because he had some scratches on his nose along the side of his head, and seemingly most of the Cubs came away unscathed. So Wellmeyer now loosened up and ready to go. He inherits a 1-0 count, and it's Ken Griffey getting a big hand. So instead of Paul Wilson, who's been ejected and probably dejected, it's Ken Griffey who comes in nursing a tender hip against Wellmeyer, who's 1-0, the ERA a fine 138, on for the 8th time, giving up just 6 hits in 13 innings, and he inherits Olmedo at second base. He was moved there on the wild pitch.
Think ahead with us along on into the 8th inning. The pitcher spot is due up first for the Cubs. That's where it's going to get very interesting, I would think.
Well, they're going to take him down anyway, so we'll see what happens.
And Wellmeyer whistles outside to Ken Griffey Jr. Wilson knocked out of the game literally and figuratively here in the 7th inning.
Well, you want to be careful here, and if you do happen to walk Griffey, that walk, by the way, belongs to Farnsworth.
2 balls, no strikes. That paints the corner.
Any other resolution to this at bat will be charged to Wellmeyer.
Usually when you see a baseball scrum, it's just a whole lot of pushing and shoving. Folks, that was a tackle NFL worthy. That was a body blow.
Well, if we had broken away for a minute, I was going to charge Joe Nuxall. He's a little older than Marty Brenneman, who appears to be the scrappy sort.
Marty's pretty scrappy. He's spry.
And I'll take care of Joe. He's got to be 106.
Watch out. He's got a very good left.
Well, that's true.
2 balls, 2 strikes to Griffey here in the 7th inning. Line drive to second. Junior's retired. 1 away, into the top of the order we go. A little fun at the old ballpark. So Farnsworth closed the book on him. With the exception of the run column, Olmedo is his responsibility.
Well, there's been a rash of bench clearing brawls over the last week. As I say, it's at least 4 or 5 of them. We saw Marlon Anderson elbow Jason Kendall, and that precipitated a brawl between Tampa Bay and Pittsburgh.
Kendall said he will not forget. He doesn't know when or if their paths will cross, but if they do, retribution will be made. As Larkin digs in, Dunn here against the Phillies. Got tackled by Mike Lieberthal, you recall.
Well, maybe it's just the time of year. Things getting a little tense in the race. The weather starting to heat up, and with it, the emotions starting to heat up.
No balls and a strike. Chris Rietzma up in the red bullpen. And a lot of fans are wondering why Farnsworth was thrown out of the ball game, for he did not precipitate the proceedings.
Good question.
But he ended them.
Well, umpire's decision, and they didn't necessarily have to throw him out. Maybe it was the punch or 2 he threw, although it didn't look like he made particularly good contact with those.
No balls, 2 strikes to Barry Larkin, and that's high and away. 1-2 the count. That, I'm sure, is what Dusty Baker was arguing about. Why is my guy thrown out? He didn't start it, and he didn't throw inside. He threw inside, I should say. He didn't hit him. He was trying to get it out. Line drive left field. That's a base hit. Olmedo around third. Alou stumbles. Cincinnati leads 3-1 as Barry Larkin, stumbling around first, gets back safely. Larkin has his 3rd hit of the game, and that elicits a big roar, and the Reds are fired up, and so's their sellout crowd. 3-1 here in the 7th.
Sellout crowd, and it's standing room only at 41,692. Last night the sellout crowd was a little over 39,000. So Barry Larkin has been on base all 4 times, doing what he's continued to do throughout the course of his career, which is torment the Cubs. infield playing Guillen a couple of steps toward right center.
One ball, one strike. That's downstairs. In the other baseball, Mike Hampton pitching for Atlanta today has a no-hitter through 6 for the Braves. They're beating the Phillies 2-0 in the 7th. Montreal and the Pirates are tied at 1. And the Cardinals over Milwaukee 3-1 in the 3rd inning.
Russ Ortiz defeated his former teammate Kevin Millwood when Atlanta hooked up with Philadelphia last night.
Diametrically different Atlanta team. They win with their offense more often than not. At least they are right now. Gary Sheffield having an MVP type season.
This should be interesting because you can throw the ball by him up and in. And you might remember right in the middle of all the commotion. Here's a look at the standings with Atlanta running away with it in the East.
2 balls, 2 strikes. Way upstairs, big Cub fan Nate Ravitz watching. He felt that we were biased in talking about the Wilson Farnsworth situation. Nate obviously not watching the same game we are.
That's a good thing about opinions. Everybody has one. Don't necessarily have to be correct. Good luck to you.
Runner at first, and it's a pitch inside, ball 4. 2 are on with 1 man out. First Wellmeyer walk in our ball game. As we have seen in so many baseball confrontations, talk is cheap. But if a man is going to charge the mound, rules of the jungle apply. And Wilson was charging the mound in an absolutely ridiculous situation there. And
I remember Robin Ventura charging the mound against Nolan Ryan. And to get a head full of noogies.
That was pretty dumb then too. Casey fouls it away. He's got a base hit and an RBI today. Again, when you look back on that confrontation, if Wilson had gotten hit or if that thing had sent him sprawling, so be it. Farnsworth throws 99 miles an hour. But that ball missed the pitcher by about 8 inches. A high tight fastball is exactly what pitch you want, hoping he'll pop it up. He didn't. Wilson glared at him, said a few words. Farnsworth came off the mound. Wilson said something else and charged. Maybe it sounded different on radio where you can make things up from time to time. I don't know. This was real baseball, not rotisserie baseball. That's all I can say. Hot shot to Karros. He'll pick it up. He'll fire to second for 1. Casey doesn't run well. And it's a double play to retire the side. 1 more run in the 7th inning. A big battle in the 7th inning. Cincinnati adds another run. And for the Cubs, the pitcher spot is due up first. You won't want to miss the top of the 8th.
The best values in America? Well, they're here now at the Dodge Summer Sales Drive,
where you'll find our best products,
like the Hemi-powered Ram Heavy Duty Motor Trend's 2003 Truck of the Year.
A Caravan, the best-selling minivan, now with our best deals up to $4,500 cash allowance or 0% financing for up to 60 months.
All with Dodge's 7-year, 70,000-mile powertrain limited warranty.
Let us prove we got the best values in America. Hurry to your Dodge dealer today.
Come on, let's get this guy. It's got to be over 100 degrees out there. You have any idea what that does to an engine?
Need a motor oil for hot temperatures? We developed one. Pennzoil Synthetic resists thinning to protect engines in hot summer conditions. Pennzoil, we're driving protection.
Get a $7 rebate on a signature service oil change with Pennzoil Synthetic or high-mileage vehicle motor oils.
It's Suzuki Summer Sizzler, and these great deals give you one more reason to get the new Quadrunner ATV you've been waiting for. Right now, you can get up to $600 cash back on select ATVs, and on approved credit, use your Suzuki credit card for great financing deals, like $25 monthly payments for 9 months, or 0 down, 0 payments, and 0 interest for 6 months. There's also great low APR financing available, such as 3.95% APR on all Eigers and Vincents. These sizzling savings give you one more reason to ride, and the deals won't last long. So get to your Suzuki dealer today.
Cubs Baseball is brought to you in part by Suzuki, maker of innovative motorcycles and all-terrain vehicles.
As we head to the 8th inning, Cincinnati with a 3-1 lead now, and Aaron Boone's had a superlative defensive series over at third base.
Here's our Pennzoil protection play, and Boone comes up with a gem. This is highway robbery, and then he's got a strong enough arm to make it hold up. It's our Pennzoil protection play. Chris Rietzma, who's been used as a setup man, now that he's lost his job as a starter, he'll be facing Tom Goodwin to lead it off.
The question is, have all the extracurricular activities been decided here? You've got Goodwin, then the top of the Cub order in a 2-run game in this ballpark. Breaking ball, and Tom is down 0-2. They're real happy with Rietzma in that bullpen. They say his velocity is up, his effectiveness is up, and they think he has a chance to be a future setup man or closer. Right now, he's working the 8th in a 2-run game. Breaking ball just off the plate. Goodwin laid off.
And there's a look at Al Fonseca.
High hopper to Almeida. Ball finds the leather.
They certainly have tightened up the defense. With Larkin now in there every day, Boone shifting to third, and Almeida at second. And when he doesn't play Castro, what was a very leaky infield in this series has looked like a pretty good one.
Rietzma's yet to allow a run in the last 6 games for the Reds. A trend the Cubs hope to buck here in the 8th and 9th. You know, you've got Williamson lurking. He threw 2 innings the other day. That's the big question.
I think he'll be ready to go for 1 inning here.
Driven in the air to right field, pretty deep. Guillen going back on the warning track. He'll reach up and make the play. 2 men out.
They can get the 1 inning out of Rietzma. In fact, yesterday when I talked to Bob Boone, he said that Williamson would have been available last night. I think that might have been somewhat surprising. It didn't come up, but it certainly didn't hurt their cause that he wasn't needed in the ball game, so he should be ready today.
Blowing away to Alex Gonzalez, who's 0 for 3. This has turned into a very interesting ball game. It might set the stage for both of these clubs to have a very spirited race the rest of the way in the division. The Cubs won the fight, but as far as the battle today is concerned, the Reds are winning the game 3-1.
The Cubs have just 3 hits, and they all came with 2 outs in the 4th inning. And as good a game as Mark Pryor pitched, and he pitched a dandy. Paul Wilson pitched that much of a better game. And even though you'd have to question his discretion, you cannot question his performance, which was a very good one.
Hot shot. He missed a double by a foot. Cubs would love to get Alex on here and give Patterson and Sosa a chance in the 8th to tie it with 1 swing. There's not been a home run hit in this ball game today. Very muggy afternoon. Fortunately, the rains have stayed away as well. Back toward us, and just out of reach. I know you're hoping hoping I would have dived for it, but
would have made a nice attempt. Lean out, fall into the upper deck. Don't worry, we could have got you on the next trip in.
Driven to right again. Ian on the run. Boy, you're a kind-hearted man. Go to the bottom of the 8th. 3-1 Cincinnati.
It out-accelerated Honda Accord in the quarter mile. It out-handled Audi A6 in the slalom. On the road course, it surpassed 14 other sports sedans with flying colors. Introducing the 2004 Grand Prix Comp G, the best performing sports sedan in its class. Go to Pontiac.com for details. Then get price information and take a test drive. See your Chicagoland Pontiac dealer.
There's an easier way to get to the All-Star Game. Subway's Eat Fresh and Win $1 Million Scratch Card Game. You can win a trip to the Major League Baseball All-Star Game or the grand prize of $1 million. Stop by Subway today for our selection of fresh baked bread, fresh ingredients, delicious deli-style meats, and a free game card. Subway, eat fresh.
Hi, I'm Murray. We've brought all these cars here to demonstrate the huge variety of vehicles Murray's has parts for. All at low discount prices. Pretty much every car on the road.
For all the best brand names and the best customer service, don't stop anywhere else. Take the express lane to Murray's.
Thanks, everybody. You're free to go.
Super parts, super people, super prices. Murray's, the auto parts supermarket.
So whatever car you drive, hurry to Murray's Discount Auto Stores. Really? You can go now. We're done. Really?
Gail Fisher inside the Fox Sports Net studios with this in-game update, and a huge brawl between the Cubs and the Reds in this game, and we're going to show you the pictures in the post-game show. Dave Otto will talk about how this positively and negatively affects the team, as well as what led up to the big brawl. We're also going to look at the big matchup between the Cubs and the Sox tomorrow. So we've got a huge post-game show. You don't want to miss it, folks. It's coming up right after the game. For now, though, Chip and Steve, let's send it back to you.
Hi, Gail. Thank you very much. And you're right. It was a huge brawl. And I'm sure Jim Hendry, Andy McPhail will be talking to the guru of discipline, Bob Watson, before this ball game is over, and he will be the man responsible for handing out any punishments, if any are warranted.
Bob's had a pretty busy week. So Al Fonseca comes into this one, and his job, hold him right there.
Were you surprised that Wellmeyer came in with a rested bullpen in a one-run game?
I was, only because as good a pitcher as Wellmeyer has been, he is not a lifetime reliever. And so he was asked to do something he hasn't done a whole lot of. I know he's been a reliever since coming to the major leagues, but that's just in preparation from eventually being a starter. So Al Fonseca comes in, and he has to go through the heart of the Red order. And you know you're going to face Williamson, so 3-1 down is quite enough as far as the Cubs are concerned.
Inside corner, good pitch to Kearns. Two balls, two strikes. You know, if Kyle, I hope it doesn't come to that, if Kyle is forced to miss a game or two, maybe Dick Geron can invite him up to work with Brian Urlacher and the rest of the Bears linebacking core.
It's a pretty good tackle, centered right in the middle of his body. He put him right over on his back.
One of our email customers tells us that particular move is called a spear.
Only if you lead with your head. And you might remember the one tackle of Mike Singletary against Eric Dickerson, where he stood him up in the hole and put him right over on his back, set the tone for the Bears Super Bowl run. It was in the playoffs.
Dave's going to talk in the postgame show about.
Absolutely not. Turn it over to Gale.
Just Gale?
Absolutely.
I couldn't agree more, but fans will wonder, hey, is this the kind of thing that really fires up a team, and will the Reds take this and run with it as they continue to move along? And that pops Kearns on the way by. And again, the fans are going to boo, but it's just nonsensical. The Cubs are losing this game. They don't want to put any more runners on against this Red offense in their home park.
Well, but there's another factor beyond just this game, and it was a factor that a lot of managers on contending teams have to deal with. When you get into a beanball war with another club that is behind you, the last thing you can afford to do is get one of your stars thrown at and maybe lose him for any length of time. And so every manager has a different philosophy, but I've played with some who said, want to protect your players is one thing. You make your point, you get away from it. You don't want to get into throwing consistently at the other team, because I don't want my star on the shelf for 6 weeks with a wrist or hand problem because you threw at their second baseman.
We've seen stars in the game. Jeff Bagwell's been hit. Sammy Sosa's been hit. How good would the Reds be if Austin Kearns got hit in a beanball? It's just nonsensical. If you think the pitcher is, there's only one guy who knows if they're throwing at someone, and that's the guy that's throwing the baseball. So it's amateur psychoanalysis when you try to talk about who's doing what in whatever situation. If you want it to end, you let the pitcher stand up there. Alfonseca makes a fine play to retire Boone, who sacrifices Kearns into scoring position in the 8th inning.
That was a real good play by Antonio as he crossed over into foul territory, trying to get a better angle. This ball popped off the plate. It's a good sacrifice. Alfonseca making the throw on the run, and he had to throw it in foul territory because that's where his momentum was carrying him. And he's got a lot of momentum.
Well, the Cubs are going to pass on Dunn. They'll put him at first. And in the other baseball, Mike Hampton takes his no-hitter into the 8th inning now. He struck out 5, walked 3 Phillies. Remember, the Phillies, Kevin Millwood threw a no-hitter against the Giants earlier this year.
Roger Clemens had a no-hitter going. That was spoiled last night. Wrigley Field, where we will be tomorrow to take on the Sox.
So Alfonseca will pass Dunn. And it's 2 on, 1 out for Jason LaRue.
Plays in 180 at bats is pretty low total, although he did ground into a double play in the 2nd inning.
We get to the point in Cincinnati where these very knowledgeable fans think any inside fastball is a purpose pitch.
Well, Antonio throws a lot of his fastballs inside, and he'll work away with the slider.
2 balls, no strikes. 2 on, 1 out. Reds lead it 3-1. ice and grab some pine tar. 3 balls and a strike.
Hopefully everybody's okay. Jesse Ventura's brother sitting down there in the row below the kid who got the bat. And we'll take another look at it as that one goes tumbling around.
That lady in the blue shirt saying, I didn't sign up for this. Get me out of here. It appears everyone's all right. 3 balls and a strike. It's 3-2. Looking ahead to the Cubs' ninth. Patterson, Sosa, and Alou are coming up. Cubs are going to have a shot. They got to hold him at 3-1. Runners go. They got great jumps. The throw to third is not nearly in time. They stole those bags off Alfonseca. LaRue punches out. Now you've got Olmedo, the switch hitter, coming up, and he does have a hit, a run, and an RBI today.
Well, I know Antonio is aspiring to the time when he closes once again. But he is the easiest man in the league to run against right now. And that was a pretty good throw, but there's no chance to get anybody. You've got to shorten up their leads, or it's going to be awful tough to close.
So 2 big runners in scoring position with 2 outs. Little ground ball, that should do it. Alex fields and fires, and we go to the 9th inning. Cubs are down 2. 3-1 is our score after 8.
The car, park the car. In the Harvard. In Harvard, yeah.
Dollar. Tonic.
Boston Tea Patty. Patty.
I need $1 for a tonic.
Y'all want to get some chowder? Chowder.
The concert was wicked hardcore.
The concert was wicked hardcore.
Getting ready to go to Boston? Now there's a better way to get there.
Give me 2 lobsters and some steamers.
You are now free to move about the country.
Announcing the Ford authorized tent sale going on now at your local Ford store. For a limited time, get huge savings on Ford's best-selling vehicles. Choose 0% financing or $2,500 to $3,000 cash back on Focus and ZX2. Plus, current Ford owners get an extra $500 cash back on both. Only Ford can authorize savings like this. The Ford authorized tent sale happens only once a year, so hurry in for the Ford authorized tent sale. If you haven't looked at Ford lately, look again.
Nothing beats the fun and excitement of watching the Cubs in beautiful Wrigley Field. And you can be there. That's right. Tickets are still available for upcoming Cubs games. To get your tickets, just call tickets.com at 1-800-THE-CUBS. Head to the Wrigley Field box office. Punch in www.cubs.com. Or visit any Chicagoland Sears or Sears hardware store. Don't wait. Catch all the Cubs action firsthand and get to the game.
Hey, Cub fans, put on your rally caps and let's cheer for an exciting Cubs finish. Brought to you by New Finish, the once-a-year car polish. Chicago Cubs baseball is brought to you in part by Southwest Airlines. More than 2,700 nonstop daily flights to 59 destinations all across the country. Hyundai. When your car comes with America's best warranty, you win. Hyundai. Comcast. Proud to be Chicagoland's new cable company. And by your Chicagoland Pontiac dealers.
Last chance for the Cubs in the 9th inning. A lot of our fans wanted to know if we had a different angle on that confrontation between Farnsworth and Wilson. A lot of fans wondered where Kyle Farnsworth was after throwing a wild pitch. We have the replay.
And another factor, Bob Watson will look at this angle also and watch who charges who. The inside fastball, that's not debatable. Then Wilson and Farnsworth jawing. Now watch Wilson.
Farnsworth puts his hands up and says, what's the problem?
Well, he's standing there, and Wilson was the man that ran at him. You have to defend yourself when that happens.
In the 9th inning we go. Cubs are down a couple of runs with darkening skies looming off to our left. So for those of you who want to say the coverage is one-sided, we will accept your apologies in abeyance. But secondly, If you look at our logos on our shirt, that doesn't say, the C doesn't stand for Cincinnati, and we are happy to acknowledge that as well. Scott Williamson. Ground ball, nice play at first by Casey. There's the first out.
Well, I got to tell you, today, despite having the worst defense in the league, the Reds are in charge in this one because the defense has been terrific all the way around. And whether you're talking about Larkin, Boone, Almeida, or Casey, all of them have made very good plays today, and it's supported some very good Red pitching. That's the reason they're leading 3-1.
Just 3 Cub hits. Cubs in this series have scored a grand total of 10 runs in 4 games.
And if they do drop this one, they'll split the series, split the road trip. An outstanding accomplishment considering they will have picked up ground despite the fact that this offense has been less than sterling.
2 balls, no strikes to Sosa, facing Williamson in the 9th inning. You've got Alou and Karros lurking next. Line drive, and the tying run will come to the plate. Big at bat by Sosa. He's got 2 hits, and he will put on the brakes at first base. And Alou will come up with a chance to tie it up for the Cubs. Only the 4th Cub hit. Sosa's got 2 of them. Alou has 1 and the lone RBI.
And it was Moises getting hit that started things.
Yeah, let's
that one right down the middle, and Sammy drives it into left field.
Yeah, let's not forget that. He's the guy that got hit first.
And there's only been 1 guy hit in the game.
Here's Alou. 1 for each team.
Kern's got hit.
1 for each team, I think is what you meant. And Farnsworth, don't forget as well, threw a wild pitch. Did not hit anybody. It's not too often you see a guy charge the mound after a wild pitch in a bunt situation in a 1-run game. And Wilson paid the price. Here's Alou. And he looks at a ball low. Eric Karros waiting on deck. Cubs have a shot in the 9th inning.
And the winds are starting to swirl. And when that happens, that means that they come in down the left field line and then go right back out into left center. And it's real lively if you can get the ball up in the air. Williamson has given up 3 this year.
Line drive, center field. 2 are on with 1 out. And again, you have to wonder, what does this man have left after throwing 2 innings in game 2 of this series? Or in game 1 of this series, I beg your pardon. And now Don Gullett out to talk as Eric Karros stands in. Karros 10 RBIs away from 1,000. What you don't want is a ground ball here, for he does not run well enough to outrun the baseball.
Well, I think that's probably what he's going to tell Williamson, is try to keep this ball away, try to force Karros to pull the ball and get that ground ball to the left side. The Cubs, for their part, have put Lenny Harris in the on-deck circle. Now they're getting a left-hander up in the bullpen. It looks like Merker once again, but the guy that they close with is the guy on the mound, Scott Williamson. And they're probably going to give him every opportunity. So it could be that he's a little arm weary, and if that's the case, that slider might not be quite as sharp.
2 straight hits with 1 out in the 9th. Casey made a diving play to save a base runner as well, and Eric looks at a strike at the knees. Karros is wrapped into 7 double plays this season for the Cubs. (3-1) Reds clinging to the lead in the 9th. They head to Arizona next and start a stretch of 19 of their next 22 on the road. Karros can't believe that call. He's down 0-2.
And Gary Matthews is yelling out at Paul Emmel, asking, "You really thought he swung at that?" Sarge is irate. This is a real good slider. And Emmel said that Eric might have gone around a little too far. 1 more there. It'll be hard to keep this at bat alive.
You've got Harris on deck, who stung the ball on the road trip. Doesn't have much to show for it, however. 2 on, 1 out. 0-2 pitch to the Cubs first baseman. And that one gets through, but no movement.
Sammy unfortunately didn't pick up the ball. You've got to be able to get to third base. Now watch it again. That was poorly executed. He turned over the glove. He didn't drop to his knees, and the ball got by him. And so now Karros will have an opportunity to hit a 3-run homer. But you'd have been out of the double play situation if both runners move up.
It's one of those rare times LaRue hasn't fielded his position well, but they dodge a bullet. Did he go that time?
Oh, there's the break, and that might have come. Credit Gary Matthews for arguing vociferously on the call before, because it looked to me like Karros might have gone around a little further on this one. If you call the last one, you really have to call that one. So 50-50, you'll take it.
They all even up over the course of time.
And you get yet another swing. Nice job, Sarge.
2 balls, 2 strikes with 2 men aboard in the 9th. Now it's full. So here's where it gets real interesting.
That was a real good play. It could turn out to be a game saver. That time the slider was 58 feet, and Jason LaRue was able to not only knock it down but catch it. Karros' lifetime against Williamson coming into this series 0-for-9. And you can make it 0-for-10 because he faced him 1 time a couple of games ago.
3-2 pitch with runners at first and second and 1 out. He walked him. They're loaded. Here comes Lenny Harris.
And now the question for Bob Boone: do you trust Williamson, who might be a little arm weary, or do you go to Merker? I think he's going to look at the cards to find out the matchups. Lenny Harris 1-for-4 lifetime against Williamson. And this is where managers get gray hair, making the real tough decisions late. Barry Larkin comes in, and that could be to find out how they want to work Karros to see where he's going to set up.
Lenny Harris 1-for-4 against Williamson. Now Bobby Hill will take over for Karros at first base. Much more speed in the form of the Cubs youngster. And let's see, Harris against Williamson, as we said, 1-for-4. Harris against Merker 0-for-2. So they're loaded in the 9th inning for the Cubs, down 2 runs. You recall Harris had some great at bats up in Toronto, hit the ball right on the button. You figure he's ready to break out. Good cut straight on that pitch, strike 1.
Well, for Bob Boone, you're thinking about which you'd rather see, Williamson against Harris or Merker against probably Bellhorn. For the moment, he likes the Williamson-Harris matchup.
Lenny Harris looking for his first hit in 15 at bats. Well, he is overdue. A walk means a run. There's no place to put Harris. Cubs get that call. 1 ball, 1 strike. Williamson really laboring here in the 9th inning.
Well, you can tell, Chip, that second inning 2 nights ago took a whole lot out of him. He has less than 48 hours of rest, and he's been a busy man out of that bullpen.
Inside corner, good pitch.
That's a pretty good call by Lance Barksdale, as that one did have the corner, and it was a little above the belt. So now the rains start to trickle down.
That could be key. Remember, the Cubs had trouble fielding a wet baseball. That might play into the proceedings here in the 9th. 1-2 to Harris. Base is full, and it misses inside. Count evens at 2-2.
One of the things that Williamson does a lot, which the Cubs could really use right here, he's made 5 wild pitches and probably would have had a 6th if not for the heroics of LaRue behind the plate. You got to figure he's coming inside. Don't wonder if it's a slider.
2 balls, 2 strikes. 2 outs.
Well, that was a good slider inside. And so now Damian Miller will be called back, and Troy O'Leary will come on to pinch hit. And if you let Williamson face Harris, you're certainly going to let him face O'Leary. Take a look at that slider, biting down and in. No chance for Harris. And the only thing stands in between a 5-5 road trip, a 2-2 series, is Troy O'Leary with the game on the bases.
Mike Hampton's no-hit bid ends in the 8th inning. Marlon Byrd with a base hit. But Hampton still leads the Phillies by a 2-0 score. Here the sellout crowd starts to head for the concourse, hoping that the Reds can end it. O'Leary hopes to keep it alive for the bottom of the 9th inning. Game on the bases for the Cubs. They're loaded. 2 outs, 2-run game. O'Leary all the way back in the box. Couldn't stop his swing. Strike 1.
Well, there's no doubt that that slider is overpowering for Williamson. And that's what changed him from a starter to a closer. He's had some arm problems. He's rebounded to put together a real solid year, looking for save number 17.
Really coming down hard now. No balls and a strike. Again, no place to put him, and Bellhorn is on deck. Inning. We've seen just about everything in this ball game today. 1 ball, 1 strike. Nasty pitch.
Well, you pretty much know you're getting the slider. The question is, can you make it a strike? This has been a whale of a series as both teams have pitched and played very well. Neither team has hit particularly well.
The 1-2 pitch. Did he go? He went. Oh, they call O'Leary out on a check swing, and Dusty Baker incensed. Third base umpire Jeff Kellogg calls out O'Leary with the bases loaded on a check swing, and the Cubs leave them loaded in the 9th and fall by a final score of 3-1. The Reds split the series. They pulled it within 3 of the Cubs, and it's a 500 road trip at 5-5.
Well, you can only wonder what effect the rain might have had on that particular call. It was a good slider. You knew it was coming, and it looked to me like O'Leary might have held up. LaRue made the appeal to the wrong umpire. By the time they did get to Jeff Kellogg, he rung him up. And with the rains pelting down here in Cincinnati, the Reds split the series. They wind up exactly where they started, 3 games in back of the Cubs. The Cubs, regardless of what Houston does, will retain their lead. And all in all, a 5-5 trip is still pretty good.
So the Cubs will head back to Chicago with a 5-5 trip. They scored just 1 today, and the Cincinnati Reds beat them by a final of 3-1. Gale and Dave, it was an entertaining game. Not exactly a slugfest, but certainly plenty.
Tomorrow.
Sure is a relief to be able to talk again.
You're telling me.
Yeah.
You know, during the silence, I sort of noticed how good looking you are.